Gather around, freaks. It's Tuesday. That's a strange day to do a Hey, Did You See This One episode? But we're on the planet 16 and we've taken our tops off, or have we? And we gather around the internet radio and gather around the internet fire because it's time for another pulse pounding edition of Hey, did you see this one?
The time has come for you and any other brave enough to venture into the black void of the unknown, to take a closer look at some of those strange films from an era long past. The ones that look like they were made by folks on a serious space trip. Join us as we unearth head-scratching plots, cringe-worthy effects, and ideas so bizarre you'll be wondering what the f*** they were smoking in the writer's room. This month, Hey, Did You See This One? Invites you to grab your tinfoil hats and buckle up for a wild ride through the wonderfully weird worlds of retro sci-fi in Sci-HIGH-ence Fiction.
What's up, you freaks?
What? Me?
all of you viewers, all you co-hosts, all you guests. Welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly roundtable review, deep dive, pretty much all of it. Podcast about different movies. This is episode 151. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Planet 16. Season 3, episode 2, if you're keeping count at home. This week we are taking off all our clothes. It's on a weird spaceship with it's all shag carpeting because we're talking about Jane Fonda in Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy, from 1968, starring Jane Fonda, which I said already, and a bunch of other people who I've never seen before. Maybe
it's weird that she's called Queen of the Galaxy on the poster, but never in the movie is she referred to as the Queen of the Galaxy. Nor is she the Queen of the Galaxy. She's like a government agent.
Yeah, I'm not sure like anywhere near that.
Yeah.
It's like not the name of the movie either anywhere else but on the poster.
I mean, she is in our heart. That's
right.
Flash Gordon is the king of the universe. Barbarella is the queen of the universe, and everybody else wishes they were Flash Gordon or Barbarella.
That's right.
I don't know. Do any girls watch this?
Yeah. They do.
Yeah, you have girls? Okay, that's good.
They're around.
That's good. I like it.
I feel like it's almost so over-sexualized and campy that it comes right back around to being fun for everybody. Like, it's not horribly offensive. Obviously, I'm not really at liberty to say because I'm not the person who can say things like that. It just feels like it's tongue-in-cheek enough that it's like not as gross as maybe it would have been considered like 20 years ago. Like it's now like so goofy that it's anti-gross, but you know, it's still gross. There's still a lot of gross stuff going on.
I think it is the perfect kind of movie to talk about on the show. And we'll get into it here in just a moment, but I want to introduce our first time to the show guest. Please welcome Marianna Miniotis. Welcome to the show. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Welcome.
My brain says Milanakis every time. And right there I stammered because...
Sorry, that was just me trying to get you to shut up. No, I'm
Okay,
joking. I had it on repeat by accident.
Over-explaining Jason, that's what they call me. Well, thank you for coming. This is your first time caller, probably first time listener. I thought I'd give you a shoot an invite to you because I know you're well versed in the podcast world. I believe you work for the Sonar network of podcasting or have some sort of affiliation with them.
I do have an affiliation with them. Yes, I'm the branding content manager there. But I have actually listened to the show mostly from the other side of the door when I've heard Michael Mangiardi be on the show, and I'm always struck by just how long it is. It's the longest show in history, which I think is fun. I think there's a lot to say about every movie that you guys watch, and I can hear Michael screaming obscenity through the door every time.
He's definitely one of our favorite guests to have.
It's true, yeah. He's one episode away from getting his own playlist on YouTube. But that is a common observation about the show. It is quite long. We like to really take a movie and pull it apart as much as we can. And
I think we just like to talk about it until we're done talking about it instead of having to force ourselves to stop. We're like, we'll just let this organically run itself into dirt.
That's right. So oh my god, look at this quote from this edgelord. Oh my god.
Soy boy betas.
I've never been called a soy boy beta.
I haven't said it out loud, but obviously I am giving off that I can sense it, which is good. I want people to know when I can sense it.
Also, Jason, I call you a soy boy beta all the time. What do you mean you've never been called that before?
Fair enough.
I also call you an NPC cuck.
Do you ever call me your phone number? Because I'm posting somebody's phone number in the chat right now. What the hell is going on tonight?
I never call you those mean things.
I know that's a crazy thing to say to another human being. Thank you for watching, Val Conan. You fucking asshole. All right.
Just joking around.
Hopefully. Please keep talking to us. Just to start off the show here.
I think it's good right off the top to just shoo away anybody in the chat.
Yeah. That's how you get viewers, right?
Yeah. Listen. Never mind. So at the top of the show, we've started a new segment where we have the guest actually give us a brief synopsis of the movie. So I put together a little sting for that. Usually Steve's the guy that does that, but play us in, Steve.
I don't know what you called it. What did you name it?
Oh, okay. This is this is. Hey, can you give us a brief synopsis? Hey, guest. Why don't you give us a brief synopsis? Synopsis.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
So I made that comically long because of how brief the synopsis should be. So Marianna, yeah. Steve just leaves usually for that part. So if you want to just give us a brief, what the movie's about, the floor is yours.
Okay. This movie is about a brave astronaut who is sent on a mission to defeat a different astronaut who has invented a stingray, a laser ray that can kill. Is that good? Did I miss anything important?
I mean, I missed the whole thing, but I'm sure it was great.
Yeah,
Sure it was
no,
wonderful.
I would say keeping it as brief as possible. That is pretty much the plot of the movie. Uh,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
less about plot and more about sticky situations that Barbarella has to get herself out of over and over again, which is fun.
Yeah.
For a movie like this, it's fun. Let's just show the
Which-
weirdest stuff we can.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a better synopsis. It really is about Jane Fonda just sleeping her way through the universe, mostly.
whether it be literally or sometimes through the power of touch.
It is
Yeah.
funny that like she's never done it before, and then she does it, and then she just does it over and over again throughout the movie. I think that is kind of like a funny callback that just keeps happening. She's like, I like doing this, so I'm just gonna do it with everybody, including a literal sex organ, which is
Yeah, like she thwarts the final boss by just being too sexed up.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to when we get there. But the next thing that we like to talk about is our brief history with the movie. Steve, you know the name of this one.
A brief history.
Once again, the guest always goes first here on Hey, Did You See This One? And this is just your time to tell us about your history with this film, like the first time you saw it and things of that nature.
The first time I saw it was about 3 hours ago. And before that, I had heard the name Barbarella mentioned probably in like references to things by people who actually watch movies. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I know Jane Fonda as a bombshell from the 60s and 70s. And that's about it. That's like truly all I have in connection with this film. And actually, honestly, I was blown away by it. Like, I love it now.
What version of it did you watch? Like,
Are there different
I know
versions?
that. Well, we both watched it on the Internet Movie Archive or whatever.
Well, I
But
first
you-
started watching it in Italian on the 4K Italian transfer and realized about 7 minutes in, after Barbarella slowly takes her spacesuit off for 7 full minutes, that I was watching a language that I couldn't understand. And then I switched over to the English version. But yeah, I don't think there's any differences. I've seen this before, and yeah, the one we watched is the standard version, but I don't think there's like a bunch of different versions of this movie.
Yeah, I think I just saw a normal version of it. I was struck by the fact that the president of the Earth is French.
Yeah, so unrealistic.
That was weird.
But I mean, he was French, but he was also horny. Like he was like, "Don't worry about putting your clothes back on. Let's just have a
Oh, yeah.
conversation while you're nude." Yeah.
Oh, that was my favorite thing that happened in the beginning. She's fully naked, and I guess we'll get to this, but she's like, "Oh, I'll go put something on," and he's like, "No, don't worry about this. This is an important phone call."
Yeah.
It's like those two things have nothing to do with each other.
And then it's also like established within a minute after the phone call that she can get dressed within seconds. She has like a
Yes.
magical machine that puts her clothes on for her, which is less than
can't-
10 seconds. She just goes
can't
behind the wall in the
even
back.
begin to tell you the love I have for the outfits in this movie.
Yeah. It's like to a Barbie level or like a
Yeah.
Clueless level, the amount of
Yeah.
wardrobe changes that Barbarella goes through. And they're all good. Like there's not really one that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a stinker. Everyone was either better than the one previous to it or like a close tie to the ones that I found to be my favorite.
Oh, this tail.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed because you're not girls, but I am wearing Barbarella makeup.
Oh,
I was gonna say I did notice, but I
Tried
didn't
to make my
notice.
hair as big as possible, which,
Right.
which sort of failed, and now it just looks wet. And I put on the most space-like
Sparkly.
shirt that I have.
yeah. I
So-
couldn't find my Dildano costume, so I just put on a sleeveless hoodie instead.
I try not to comment on women's appearances in
Oh,
2024.
that's pretty kind of you, Jason. It's
It's
very
not-
mindful,
like,
very demure,
yeah.
as they say.
Mm.
You're
But
gonna
I mean,
date the podcast
don't-
by using that meme.
I don't fault you for not being able to get your hair that big. I'm pretty sure like the hairspray in the 1980s was some sort of industrial grade where they had to like blowtorch your hair in place for movies like this.
The 1960s even.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
the 60s.
Yeah, I don't know what. Like maybe she sat under one of those, like those things, those giant things. I've
I think
never
it's a
done
hair.
that.
Isn't that just a hair dryer? Like it's just a big giant.
Yeah, but you put your hair in like big curlers, and
Yeah.
then you dry it with that big
Thing.
helmet thing, and it's supposed to just stay in place.
It looks like a space electric chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I need to get one of those outfits desperately.
My
I'm going to
partner
Expo next year as Barbarella.
My partner does cosplay, like they make costumes and stuff, and they were just taking notes the entire movie, like, all right, so, and then started looking it up during the movie, like, how can I make this silver bikini? Like, just pay attention. I need to bounce jokes off of you for the show.
I respect it.
But I was going to ask you guys if you had a favorite outfit, because I definitely had one, but there was a couple that tied with one another.
I have to look at them again.
I'm gonna go with nude.
Oh yes, birthday suit.
Jane Fonda nude. Sorry, that's too much.
I like the one with the little, like, sort of sequency, sparkly bra, and then like a cape, sparkly silvery cape. What was that?
Like chainmail, I guess. It's like like a white leotard underneath it. Yeah, that one was my number 2. My number 1 is the skunk. Like it's so good, and like the gags about it. But it's also like, I don't know. I just liked how the collar kind of came up and drooped over. But the tail gag also is just like so well executed, and all the timing on it is just so like actually funny, like modern level of hilarity.
The skunk was funny. I did find myself like asking at times, like, is this a comedy? Because for a long time it didn't feel like it was. But then the skunk thing started happening, and other things kind of sprinkled in, like attempts at jokes, and I was like, what is this supposed to be a funny movie?
She definitely looks at the camera at one point.
I mean,
after her hair curls up and like she's done but he isn't, she like looks over at like, oh right, and then puts her hand back up. I was like, that's like a joke from a modern day raunchy comedy. And the description for this movie is like sci-fi sex comedy film.
Yeah.
So
it is a comedy, yes. I think that the first sort of joke that landed for me where I chuckled out loud was when those little girls put her on the skis and she's like, but I haven't skied in ages. Like she's way more concerned about her skiing skills than the fact that she's being kidnapped by feral children. And then she threatens to like call their parents later too, which is funny.
And as bad as Jane Fonda's acting is, and as bad as this movie truly is, I think some of the comedy really was there for me. And some of it truly wasn't.
her physical comedy, there's one part where she's like falling all over the place later in the movie.
She like rolls around
a good pratfall. Yeah.
The spaceship when she rolls backwards. That was hilarious.
But yeah, the first sort of string of jokes that worked really well for me was the skunk tail, like just getting caught in the door and then the door opening and her quickly like pulling it back in, and then she's like trying to be serious at one point and she's standing a little bit close to the door and you don't even see it in the doorway, but she yanks it because she's scared it's gonna get caught again. It's so funny, like it's really good. But yeah, I think that you're right. Like a lot of the humor is almost too corny, but then the ones that go beyond too corny I really like. But then also the subtlety of some of the other jokes is really good. But I mean, I did laugh out loud when the guy's like, I'm blind and I can't fly anymore. I've lost the will to fly. And then as soon as they have sex, he's immediately flying, like right afterwards.
That was insane. It is super campy. It's the epitome of camp, this movie. I also really liked that she asked him to lead the way.
Yeah,
the blind guy.
Lead us there, and he's like feeling the walls and stuff.
But and at some point he turns him somewhere too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, there were those very clear, obvious comedy bits, but then there was a big stretch in the beginning where I just felt like there was nothing funny happening, and like it's not one of those movies that's like slapstick, like everything's funny and it's just jokes. But it's also not dead serious. So I was really confused, like, what were they trying to do? But I mean, the number one...
It might be the first of its kind. Like it's so old that this might be the first like raunchy sex comedy, really.
Sci-fi
I think
comedy.
this was the era where like raunchy comedies were like conceived as an idea. They're like, well,
Yeah,
we can
like,
show breasts and have people be horny, and that be the whole concept behind it is like the horniness is the funny. And comedy really has a tough time over time. Comedy and horror, like, they don't typically age very well unless they sort of encapsulate a very specific vibe that can go beyond it. I don't think this succeeds and achieves that, but I do think that there is enough to excavate while you're watching it that I'm like, I do truly find this pretty funny at times, right? I do laugh out loud. I'm not like sitting there stone faced. I can't believe people thought this was funny in 1968.
I would never rewatch this as a comedy, but I would rewatch this a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and for me, it's all as bad as the effects and the green screens and everything really are. The aesthetics are like so good.
Did we do our brief histories?
we're still in that segment.
Okay.
I just want to we'll continue that, but Michael's right here, and I wanted to bring up the fact that right before sci-fi became like a big thing in film, the beach comedy was the comedy, and the sex comedy was kind of fostered and born out of that. So the ideas were there. Like, for instance, I looked up 60s beach comedies, and there's a movie called Ghost in the Invisible Bikini from 1966, right? Where the Boys Are, how to stuff a wild bikini, 1965.
How to what?
Stuff a wild
bikini. So those are like beach comedies from the era.
Yeah. Use your imagination. It's probably about horny teenagers at the beach.
Well, a naval reserve duty in Tahiti and away from his girlfriend, Dee Dee, a net-footed cello.
Dee Dee from
Frankie
Tahiti? No, that's classic comedy writing right there.
That's writing. And Frankie Avalon worries she might be unfaithful. So Frankie hires the Dr. Bawana, played by Buster Keaton, who dispatches an alluring sea beauty named Cassandra, played by Beverly Adams.
I wonder if Bawana is from Tijuana. That would probably be pretty funny too, right?
Yeah. To entice sleazy ad executive Ricky, played by Dwayne Hickman, away from Dee Dee. But unexpected complications arise when the beach becomes topsy-turvy after Cassandra arrives. That's the plot.
Let's
Topsy-turvy. Perfect conditions for a Buster Keaton.
Yeah. A whole host just falls on him.
Yeah, I mean, like, the funny thing is, like, the raunchy beach comedy was like such a prominent thing when sort of directors that are really big now were younger. That was sort of the bread and butter of just sort of like journeyman comedy directors. And like, I'm sure you guys know the story, but like Beetlejuice, they were trying to make a sequel about a year after it, and Tim Burton was like, I'll only do it if it's set in Hawaii and Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii and it's a raunchy sex comedy from the 60s. And I'm like, that, the more I think about that, the more I kind of wish that Tim Burton did it. But he did it as like a loaded gun, being like, don't even test me because I'll fuck this franchise right
I'm
up.
wondering if Beetlejuice, I haven't seen it yet. I'm wondering if it has a reference to that in it. It must, right?
I mean, it would be great if when we first beat Beetlejuice, he's on the beach in Hawaii.
He's like, yeah.
All right, yeah. But I assume he's probably still in the waiting room, right? That's the joke, that it would take like 1,000 years or whatever for him to get to his number.
We let's finish out our brief history, Steve. I think I'll just say I also watched it today. I knew about the movie,
So
I'm familiar with Jane Fonda to a degree. I know that Sydney Sweeney's being looked at to remake this film.
All right, we'll talk about the remake in a second, Jason.
Okay. But Steve,
we all know how horny you are for Sydney Sweeney, you pervert. So during COVID, Jason, you came to a few, but we did like bad movie nights over streaming where a bunch of us in lockdown would watch corny movies or weird movies. Over the course of the 2 years, we were all locked inside. And this was one of the ones we watched, and I had never watched it before, but I have a friend who loves this era of film. And so he's always got movies that he really wants to show us. He's like he's around our age, but it's like he's like an elderly woman trapped in a younger man's frame. And this was one of the movies that we watched, and the first time seeing it, I was like, this is so interestingly goofy, and it feels like a Star Trek episode mixed with like a Wizard of Oz, but not as good as either, but like maybe better in certain areas than others.
Yeah, the sets were like inspired by Wizard of Oz, I read.
Yeah, I think even just the whole concept feels sort of
probably.
like Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland, right? Like she's going to a strange world and meeting strange characters and has to help them and defeat evil. But I mean, same could be said about every fantasy movie ever made. But you know, whatever. And I haven't watched it since then, but I do. It's a movie that I think about a lot. Anytime I see a reference to this era of science fiction, or think about Jane Fonda, or watch another Jane Fonda movie, or anything where there's a corny laser effect, I think to Barbarella, and I'm like, you know, Barbarella's pretty great. Like, it's not good, but it's great. And so I was looking forward to doing it on the show. I think when we came up with a concept for this month, I was pretty adamant about putting Barbarella on the list because there aren't too many of this type of movie that I would want to talk about. And I'm more familiar with this than I am with even Flash Gordon, which I have seen before in my youth. But I was looking forward to revisiting this one, and I'm glad we did it. So I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it was we wanted to do Zardos. How do we do Zardos, and work backwards from there? And as soon as we came up with the I should say, I forgot to mention in the opening that it is Sci-HIGH-ence Theater Month, where we ask, what the hell were they on? And Zardos was the end of the month, and this one was the second one mentioned, and it's definitely giving, like, it's even put together like a memory from when you were wasted, because there's so many like weird, it just cuts to the next thing. It's like, how did we get here?
There are moments in this where, you know, like the concept for the month is funny or whatever, right? Like, oh, they were on LSD when they made this, but this movie actually feels like somebody was on LSD when they made it. You're like, oh, well. There is no sort of succinct 60s cut here. They're like, and then this happens. Now they're all smoking a hookah off of man essence or whatever.
I wrote a note. That's a good recommendation there, the Fearless Vampire Killers. But there's a moment in this where I was like, how psychedelic is this going to get? And then it got even more psychedelic to the point that I was like, man essence. And then I was thinking of I was just thinking about how, like, they definitely Heavy Metal, the movie, and the like comic book was definitely inspired by like this kind of like pulp writing.
Yeah, I mean,
almost.
Barbarella itself is inspired by things that predate it, right? Like like Buck Rogers and stuff like that. But this one took it and was like, oh, those nerds who like those comic books from the 30s, let's make a horny version of it. And I'm all here for it, you know?
I'm here for it. And let me tell you, it was horny.
We're all horny.
Because there are Barbarella comics, and I think they're still going to today even.
And the Simpsons would reference Boobarella, right? Like that was
what they did was they combined Elvira with Barbarella and named her Boobarella, and she's just like a spooky horror movie host.
Elvira, yeah. Let's talk about this director. I don't think it's gonna be a long conversation.
No, I went through his filmography and I was like, I must have seen at least something by him, and I probably have, but nothing that jumps out as something that I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that. But you know, he directed well before this, and not for too many more years after it. What?
We have a sting for this.
Oh my god!
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound, speed, action.
This one for some reason you're like, even though it's one of the best ones, you're like, we're just gonna barrel through and talk about.
Yeah, I was wrong actually when I said not too long after. He directed right up until 1997 and then died in the year 2000. So he went all the way up until he was nearly dead. But wow. He died relatively young, not like super young, but he was in his early 70s when he passed away.
So are all of these movies? Wow, he has a pretty long filmography.
No. If you're on his IMDb, that's a lot of his writing as well, right? Like,
are these all like sexy, raunchy comedies?
No, there's a mix. There's a mix of, I mean, there's romances and there's probably a lot of sort of trashy romance stuff, but you know, he's got a decent mixture. It wasn't all Barbarellas, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
Looking at the directed now,
and like I said, he was directing right up until he passed away. So
I want
Was
to
he
check
not
out.
married to Jane Fonda?
oh god, I just got wine in my eyeball. Jesus Christ.
He was married to Jane Fonda, yes, and Bridget Bardot.
Ooh.
Oh my god, I found an alternate poster for this, and it's way hornier than the one that I'm using.
Yeah, I've never even heard of any of these movies. I'm curious about Nutty. Where is it?
Nutty Professor.
No.
He directed
Nutty
2004's
Naughty
Nutty
Chateau from 1963.
Oh, he directed Naughty Professor. It's just a horny version of Blubber or Flubber or whatever it's called.
Pretty Maids All in a Row. Don Juan, or If Don Juan Were a Woman. It's the name of a movie.
That's the name of the movie?
Don Juan, or If Don Juan Were a Woman.
Wow.
Man, he's got range.
And that has Bridget Bardot in it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's hiring hot people.
Yes.
This is one of those directors where if I was a better student in school, I'd probably have a lot more to say, but I don't. So
I'm not a movie person. I don't know movie trivia. I don't watch other movies. The only movies I watch are the ones Michael forces me to. So I'm out of my league here. All I can say is I love this movie.
Yep. Me too. I love movies, and I watch kind of this type of movie all the time just for pleasure, not even for the show.
Well, I can see why you would watch this movie for pleasure.
not sexual gratification or that kind of pleasure, just because I think it's hilarious. But you know, that shirtless people of all sexes and gender, I'm down. I was even kind of into that weird doctor guy in The Maze. And I was like, yeah, Dr. Ping. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah. I'm really into the Iceman.
Yeah.
That
Austin Powers level of hair on his chest.
hair?
Because it was like
a fur coat.
The joke.
And it was another fur coat underneath.
The joke of him being almost as hairy when he's not wearing his hair suit is very good. Because it was clearly not his real chest hair, but like that is the joke you want to go for, is like I take off a sweater and I'm wearing another sweater underneath.
But I couldn't tell because it's 1968 if that was a joke or not.
That looked like it was permed, like it was like rabbit fur like on his chest. You know, like
Steve, this is a new segment I'm making up just now. Steven is most attracted to Dr. Ping, and I'm most attracted to the Iceman. Who in the film made you the horniest? And I think this is a new segment that you should add to your show.
Right. It'll be like, ooga, horny alert over here.
Who in the film made you the horniest, Jason?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Not Jane Fonda. I'm gonna go Jane Fonda, but only because I forgot that she looked like modern. She has like modern beauty. Like she looks like models of today. I don't know.
Jason's expecting everybody from the 60s to look like a grandma hot or whatever. No, I know what you mean. Jason
was a goddess.
Yeah, Jane Fonda is like one of the most beautiful people who ever lived. Period. Yeah. Like she's like in her like 80s now, and she still is like pretty beautiful. You're like, oh my god.
They called her a sex kitten for a reason. Boner alert.
We had this banner already from another episode.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it should be called, boner alert, and it'll be like alarms going off, like a bunch of people on the bridge of like the starship, like boner alert. 14 boners at us, sir. Yeah, I mean, again, like, and Jane Fonda, like in everything, is just like, I know what you mean to say, Jason, is like she has sort of a modern beauty. It's like when you're looking at her, it's timeless in the sense that you can look at her in the 1960s and something like this. You can look at her in like the later 70s and something like Clute, and she's like just as beautiful.
The actor who plays Psycho in Psycho, who plays Patrick Bateman. What's the name of Psycho?
Norman Bates.
That actor also.
That's the name of the character.
I think it's Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, Jason Bateman from the 60s Psycho.
Yeah.
Looks like has that same like he looks like a modern day actor. And I have a theory that Robert Redford, I think, who was in that Sneakers movie. Robert Redford?
Yeah.
He's like the last of the like he half of his face looks old school and half of his face looks new school.
Oh yeah, he's like blockhead hot, where you're like, this man,
Yeah.
you could stack several of his skulls on top of each other and like make the foundation of a home without like square his head.
I'm not sure. I don't even know if I follow that, but
I don't know. He's
Marianna,
got a box
who made you horny? The Iceman?
I think that, well, honestly, oh my God, so many people in this movie made me horny.
I like the Empress when she shows up with an eye patch as well. That was pretty good, and she had like the spinny
Okay,
eyes in her
because
hand.
I like the version of the that what's she called, the Tyrant or whatever, with the freaking unicorn horn.
Yeah, the Tyrant was...
yeah. That's her crown, is just a unit. Because remember they're trying to put it on Duran at the end or whatever.
Right, the horn. I think she definitely made me horny. The guy, the Iceman, made me horny. Professor Ping, it's the sort of fake person that is the angel guy made me horny.
Yeah. He was like mannequin hot, where you're like, oh, he's like a mannequin.
Yeah.
He even moved like a living mannequin, you know, like he's always.
Yeah, Mike actually said he was in the room for like 5 minutes and he saw this guy and was like, this guy looks like Rocky from Rocky Horror.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, it's like that level of just brain dead, hot, like not even a hot man. I wouldn't even say he's hot. He's just kind of like just there.
Yeah. He looks like he probably smells good and is very soft to touch.
Yes,
and like,
soft. He looks soft. His hair looks soft.
And he looks like he wouldn't mind if you were touching him. He'd be like, yes, touch as much as you want. And you're like, oh, even his personality is soft. But yeah, I mean, I think he was mostly there, I guess, for eye candy. But like I agree with you. Like, I think he's meant to be the hottest male character in the movie, but I wasn't like, honk, honk, oh yeah, boner alert. I was like, okay, this guy's just basic
for sure. But he was not just eye candy, he was also a mode of transportation.
Yeah, he was a car. Yeah. he was a glider.
He was like the owl from Lord of the Rings.
It was also great that all the most attractive people were the ones who survived at the end. They just fly away into the credits.
Yeah, it was kind of rude. It was quite rude, actually. Dr. Ping, I guess, was he vaporized? I don't know. A bunch of people
vaporized.
Dildano
gets vaporized, and I think the rest of the place exploded.
I mean, I was even into Dildano. Like, I thought he was pretty cute, and he's funny, and like, there's something going on there that I was like, I would rather be with Dildano than most of the characters in this movie, because at least he seems like he would make me chuckle.
Why wouldn't this episode make air?
I don't know, because of our boner alert tag that's been happening.
You can take it off, even though you're the one that's put it up.
That's true.
Are you concerned about people being turned away? People being frightened by your boner?
We have to put a warning at the beginning of the episode, like, warning, this is the horniest episode that has ever existed.
We haven't even gotten that horny. Come on, we haven't even started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you have nothing else to say about the director, it is now time for the body of the episode. So you should play the long version of the body.
The long version?
Ooh, the long version.
Oh, everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Well,
I was expecting it to be much longer.
Why?
Because
the other one is
that first one.
Yeah, the first one was extremely unnecessarily long, and then you just told him to play the long version.
Well, here's the short version.
The body of the episode.
See, in comparison.
Okay. Okay, fine. I'll shut up.
This is, of course, the podcast within the podcast. We sort of run down. I run down sort of the different sections of the movie, but feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about during this segment. This is what everybody's here to listen to. They're not here to listen to us talk about what gave us the hardest boners.
Well,
Or
I
maybe they
mean, we
are.
should talk about the 7.5-minute stripping sequence at the beginning of the movie where Barbarella is just taking off her spacesuit very slowly.
I'll tell you what, when she was doing that, the first note that I wrote down in my notebook is this porn?
Did these guys make me watch porn? What's going on here?
Then I wrote Jane Fonda is a goddess.
Yeah.
And the answer is kind of. It kind of is porn.
It is
It's kind of like porn
pornographic.
for women.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
aggressive sexual sequences. There's a lot of sex, but it's very tongue in cheek, and it's usually sort of a punchline is like they're about to have sex or they just had sex and something funny is happening right after that. Like in this movie, Jane Fonda, the first time she has sex is literally fucked to the point that she's stupid for a little while. She's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like he fucked her brains out.
It's
you're
called getting dignitized.
Dignitized, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny. And I mean, the joke is that people on Earth don't have sex anymore. They have to take a pill and like put their hands together. It's almost like the joke in Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, where they just basically like telepathically have sex. And the whole idea is that they have to be matched up on a biological level in order to be able to successfully make love. And I guess the outcome being we will then reproduce. I think that's not. They don't go too much into detail, but
yeah. Well, I mean, they did kind of allude to the idea that sex, the primitive way, was just a distraction and seemed to, I guess, dumb down the like humanity. And I guess once they moved to this this sort of telepathic, more, I don't know, empty sort of.
It's like a transaction. It's like a business transaction. Yeah.
It's like they advanced more.
Well, they say like
that.
Only poor people have sex now. This is how we make love.
Right.
Which is funny because it's like I just imagine a bunch of poor people in the future being like, "All right, love, let's do it. Let's make love." they just have sex, whereas rich people are sitting in like penthouse apartments holding hands or whatever. We have a question about the zero gravity effect at the beginning, and I mean, it's
okay. Oh my god, I have a lot to say about this because as a non-frequent movie watcher, I do like movies. I watch movies. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not watching movies like all the time like you guys. And I wouldn't say I have like a trained eye for effects and whatever. Like sometimes Michael will be like, "Oh, the CG in this movie is so bad," and I'm like, "Looks great."
Right.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, the thing about
this was for like the first 5 seconds. I was like, "How are they doing this?"
Right, yeah.
I was like, it looks pretty good. But then once I realized, I think she's just lying on the ground. It never left me. I could never undo that. Once the screen was
that's
gone.
one of the great things about this era of movies is like most practically all special effects had to be done in camera because obviously they didn't have the technology we have now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of a fun game to figure out how they do these types of special effects. This one, like you said, even somebody who's not very well versed in special effects, you figured it out eventually. And like, yeah, once you figure out what it is, you can't unsee it. And you're like, oh no, she's just lying on a glass wall and there's stuff behind her and she's throwing things. Cause like they'll float off screen and you're like, whoa. But then when it like doesn't quite go off screen and it just stops and it's sitting there, you're like, oh, it's just like sliding across the ground.
And you can start to see her kind of labored movements. Like she's not freely like moving. She really is pushing her body around.
Yeah. You see where she's
really
pressing her weight down and like her arm isn't moving while her leg is moving.
And her hair is like not floating. It's just kind of like laying over her face. Yeah.
But I could see
really
like a
that,
child watching that and being mesmerized, right? Like not that a child should watch Barbarella, but
I was mesmerized for a bit.
The first time you see a spaceship fly across the screen, you realize it's not green screen. It's like it's all practical. You know, they just made that like little set. I don't know if they projector or what, but compared to Flash Gordon, which is like, 12 years older, 68, 78, 14 years older. The green screen work in that is awful. And that's 1980. And in this, it's like they made these miniature sets, and they all look so cool. You can tell obviously that it's like toys and miniatures and little tiny sets and stuff, but I just like that so much more. It feels so much more tactile, almost visually tactile.
Yeah, I mean, when you have this kind of stuff, as obviously fake as it is, there is a certain level of charm that exists to it because it does look like a toy, and you're like, cute. I like this weird little set. I love that her ship is extremely pink, and when it's flying, and it's like awkwardly shaped, and it has like weird pulsating
Those
balls
weird
on the side of it.
pulsating
Yeah,
things on it. Yeah,
It's all fur inside, like just like soft.
all fur.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
it's
And
shag
then
carpet
Shag
all the
carpet.
way around.
The weirdest thing about her ship is that like it looks like it would be so comfortable to really lie down anywhere, and then when she goes to sleep, she lies on like the most plasticky looking hammock thing that would probably is so rough on your skin that I'm like, why not just curl up in a ball in one of these fur corners, Barb?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shit, I forget what I was gonna say, but the effects. Oh, Mike also mentioned that this movie had a budget. Like, actually, do you know the budget of this movie? Don't even look it up. Just guess.
It's small. I think it's like,
15 million, 20 million.
Less.
No, it was 9 million, but that blew my mind. He asked me to guess, and I was like, $100. I don't know. And he said $9 million, which by today's like,
it's pretty big budget.
Pretty huge. Yeah.
Is like $72 million or something. So I mean, it does look like, I guess anything you watch from the 60s is gonna look like toys, but at the time, I think like they really put a lot into the set pieces.
Well, some of the sets are wild, like really good. The palace stuff is all really good. The like the labyrinth, like it's kind of Star Trek-y. Where like it feels. I've seen stuff like this in like a television show of the same era. But
I like the weird, freaky, like psychedelic sex dungeon cult place where all the people are laying around partying. I thought that like a great, like a big
like
hall.
Burning someone's feet for some reason. I mean, like this is pleasure or pain, you decide. I mean, I think my favorite set, my favorite sets in this are like the spaceship, which probably was one of the cheaper ones to do, and then the dream chamber is really cool.
Yeah,
which is also just like a really simple, it's like a black wall projected with lava lamps or whatever on the wall, and then just some shitty, fake foliage in a bed. It's like the most simple stuff. But I mean, like the city streets and stuff, they were all cool, but the more they showed, the more you're like, oh God, those are just giant plastic airbags. Why are they here?
That lava lamp. That lava lamp effect, I believe, is used a bunch in the hilarious House of Frightenstein. I don't know if you've ever seen this show, but it's like a kind of a kids variety show, teen variety show from the early 70s. That is just like, what if Frankenstein and Wolfman had a psychedelic comedy party every week? And they used to show it on the Comedy Channel like late at night when I was like a teenager. But it's wild. And also there's a kids show from the 60s that my dad showed me that I couldn't even wrap my head around how they got away with it. Even like, Pee-wee Herman used a lot of weird psychedelic effects that are really practical and really weird.
I mean, Pee-wee Herman has always been sort of a little bit like leaning towards more adult than child stuff. Like,
yeah.
Like it's the whole concept.
The Broadway show is for adults, but
I mean, especially now, but like I'm talking even of the era, it was like this is maybe not supposed to be for kids, because even when he was first like invented by Paul Rubens, it was a stand-up act for adults. He's like, the joke is that I'm an adult acting like a child. You're like, okay, so we get it, but then somehow it translated so hard that it became an actual children's show. And I think even he was like, I did not design this character for children at all. And that somehow has become the thing. But I mean, like if you watch the Tim Burton movie, the first Pee-wee Herman movie, like even that has these sort of nightmarish sequences that are clearly not for
Big Bertha.
kids.
Yeah, that messed me up. It's interesting how they were able to achieve this opening segment. I couldn't tell if it was shot upside down but you guys are right. Her hair doesn't really move.
Well, it was just shot from above, so they just like pointed down at her, and she was just like, she was lying on a glass wall. Yeah. There are some shots where they do close-ups, you can literally see her reflection because she's on a glass wall, so you can see her reflection in it. They didn't have a way to paint that out back then.
Sorry, Michael. Large Marge, not Big Bertha. I blew it. Canceled again.
Big Bertha. Is that a different character, or did you just call it Big Bertha?
Big Bertha is a comic book character, apparently.
Sounds like something they would name like a gun or something in
it's another name for a howitzer. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jason's military mind never rests.
I love guns, apparently. Just to sort of get us all on the same track here. We're introduced to Barbarella. We get the zero gravity striptease. She receives the mission from planet Earth to find the scientist Durand with an extra D. We'll talk about in a sec. Who has created a dangerous weapon, the positronic ray. And then she basically goes through that. They have that conversation, and then she starts traveling, and she crash lands on planet 16, and she gets captured by those freaky children with the dolls.
It's crazy because they're feral children, right? Like they've been left to their own devices in the wilderness, because on this planet, when you have a baby, you send it out into the wilderness until it becomes of serviceable age, and then there's a man who goes and catches. I don't know
why. They didn't really get into that at all. It just happened, and he explained it for a second, and then there's just no further questions.
Yeah, the way it's kind of set up, you expect it to be something where the child catcher comes back later on and helps and has like all the children with him, and he's like, "Go, children, we must fight and help Barbarella," or whatever. But it doesn't happen. It's just you see the captured children once more later on, and someone has clearly purchased them. He's like, "Come, children." He has them on leashes. You're like, "Oh god." Yeah,
the child catcher's sole purpose in this film was to teach Barbarella how to have sex the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned.
And then he's just like, "Why don't you swing back around sometime?" She's like, maybe I will.
Help yourself to my wares, because your clothes are torn. Like you're like, did he tear her clothes off? Like fucking bad.
Well, no, her clothes were all torn off from the weird freaky doll.
I know about the bites. I remember the bites, but they were still intact enough that she could wear it.
That's true. Before we continue, though, I just want to get this out of the way.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
Films where the title of the movie is the name of what her name is, but I thought it was interesting that there's this whole song about Barbarella at the start of this movie. That just switches over to talking about her directly, which happened. Like these songs were written for this movie clearly because they're just describing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And at 2 minutes and 55 seconds, we hear them say Barbarella for the first time.
It felt like a Will Ferrell bit or something,
or like the Barbie
movie. She's floating around, taking off her clothes. Look at her, she's beautiful. Barbarella. You're like, okay, yeah, got it.
Was the song at the end of the movie also one of these?
Yeah, it's like they're flying up into the
sky with an angel man.
An angel is love. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the computer is like, incoming message from Earth, and it's like clearly like a very effeminate gay man is the computer, which I appreciated. I'm like, okay, this is good. I like that. It's almost like a C-3PO level. Like, we have to have sort of this genderless, sexless voice, but leaning more towards like persnickety gay man. And
I also wanted to point out that the first real joke of this movie is the font of the credits trying to cover up her naked body and failing miserably most of the time.
There's a lot of tried to hide nudity, but whatever. We don't care that much in this movie.
Like, the letterings are like all squiggly. It's fucking so weird and funny.
I like when the Jane Fonda comes out of her hair, though. That was cool.
That's where she keeps her Jane Fonda and Jane Fonda's hair.
She can still do that trick. It's a party trick. A lot of people don't know.
Barbarella. we get, so I mean, after this intro sequence, we're still in the opening sequence. She gets her mission, which is to find Duran, and then she's immediately confronted as she leaves her spaceship on a frozen lake by two twin girls who are wearing red dresses, and one of them knocks her out for some reason. I mean, they knock her out and she gets
wait, can we go back to the crash?
Right. Yes. I forgot that she's like, beep, 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 or what?
Yeah. So there's this big, like it's supposed to be like a terrifying sequence of like, it's a crash sequence. Yeah. Like, oh my God, the computer's failing and this failed. The magnets failed. I don't know. She's going through a magnetic force. The magnets that are they're holding up.
Magnets were like the top technology. That's what I kept thinking. I'm like, they're talking about magnets and positronic rays an awful lot.
Yeah.
If you know anything about space travel, magnets are required.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the magnets are failing. And it's like I wrote down like it's the least intense crash sequence I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like it was just so gentle. And it was just like she was just kind of like, huh? And Jane Fonda really has this very special way of looking never that scared ever by anything.
Nor surprised.
Nor surprised. Yeah. She's just sort of like, what? Oh. just like cute at all times. Like nothing matters. So even during this horrible crash, where apparently she was crash landing, it was like, is anything happening? And then also the screen.
That's what I was gonna say. Like usually it would be like you'd see things flying by, asteroids, a planet approaching, but it's just the interior of a lava lamp. Where she's like, "Oh shit!"
Colors. It's just like colors.
I would argue,
and she's like, "Oh."
I would argue that
she rolls.
She rolls over. But she's in her nice furry, it's like a sunken cockpit, I guess, where she can move around and crawl around on the fur floor. But I would argue that her going to the computer, wake me up in 178 days, was more exciting to me than the crash sequence. Because I was like, she could just go to sleep for 178 days. I wish I could do that. That's sick. And then just drink some purple juice as all the nourishment you need, I guess, for several days.
Prepare for nourishment.
I want that nourishment glass.
All of the sound effects for the little teleporter thing that she has are like boing, which I was just giggling at because it's so goofy and like
he's like, I'm teleporting you with the device now. And it's called a tongue box, or it has a tongue box built into it, which is gee whiz. Tongue boxes mean completely different things now. I wonder if that was spawned from this.
I think they knew what they were doing.
You knew what they were doing? Tongue box?
I think that tongue box. I was like, that's a clever way to put that, but also
it sounds like a sexual act. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have questions about the potential innuendos in this movie. I'm not even sure that I didn't think that there were as many like entendres as there should have been, but then there is one later on, and I guess we'll get to it, but she like falls out of a tube and she's like, I guess I'm not the tube type. What does that mean?
That's just... it sounds like gotcha. Like it sounds like a weird sex joke, but I'm like, I don't get it though. Like what does that mean? Tube, I'm like vagina tubes,
Condom?
like that's probably or condoms or like butthole. Like there's a bunch of tubes in the human body. I don't know. Your butthole is a tube to your inside.
I took that as just like a goofy, like it's the 60s and we're gonna make a joke, even though it's not a joke.
But I mean, it's a sex comedy, so you have to go into this assuming that every single thing they say is some sort of entendre, right?
And I think Jason's right. Like, I think most of the jokes in this movie really are just there for just for Jane Fonda to say something cute. Like, it's not meant to be a clever joke in any way. It's really just she's just kind of like, guess I'm not the tube type, huh?
Yeah. I think like the end of the movie when he's playing the organ and she's like having an orgasm, I'm like, oh, this is a literal sex organ. Like somebody was like, what if a sex organ wasn't just your dick or your vagina, but an actual organ that when you play it, it gives somebody an orgasm?
It's so funny that you actually even thought that, because when I wrote notes, I wrote, she broke his sex piano.
Piano. I wrote something similar to it that I'll read when we get to it. I mean, this is a good point here from Michael. Is Duran Duran a double D joke? Could be.
Oh yeah.
The Catchman Mark Hand is the name of the big furry guy. The Catchman Mark Hand. It rolls off the tongue. No pun intended. But Mark Hand, I don't know. That's got something there, right?
Is that his name? I didn't catch his name.
Yeah, the
You
Catchman.
didn't catch
Mark
the
Hand.
catcher's name?
No,
Mark
I
Hand?
knew he was a catchman.
Yeah.
Mark Hand.
He has like a specific title, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it has catch in the word for sure.
Child
Catchman.
Catchman. The catchman.
Catchman. Yeah.
He's not the child catcher. That's Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the guy with the pointy nose. And he's like, children.
No, child wrangler.
Yeah. It would be funny.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I guess he catches them in a big net. But it'd be funny if he had a lasso and had to like hog tie them, like, put them over his shoulder. So, you know, that we have a weird interaction where the children in the wilderness are like living inside of broken ships.
And they're all twins.
They're all twins for some reason, or they all look similar, and they're all wearing wigs, or at least all the boys are wearing wigs. And they are a little bit freaky looking. I think they were like, we don't want to make them too cute. They got to look a little bit freaky.
Yeah.
And,
They live on an ice planet, which was wild. Because she lands.
yeah, but it doesn't look cold. I mean, I guess if they were on a soundstage, it's probably meant to be
But
cold.
are we going to talk about the skiing?
Yes. And how they were pulled along by like a manta ray.
Yes.
That was a cool effect.
Manta. That was a cool effect.
I liked it. Okay.
I like the joke, but I haven't gone skiing in ages. That made me laugh. And
Yeah,
then
it was cute.
The skiing itself, I was like, this is horrible. Like they're like, "Ah," and it seems like the editing makes it seem like they just went like 20 feet. Like they're so,
Yes.
like it didn't
It does seem like they didn't go that far. They could have just slid there faster.
or walked. Yeah.
And because it also is not moving quickly. The whole reason to be attached to some freaky animal that's going to slide you across the ice is because it's supposed to move faster than you could. But actually, it's like really, really, really slow. And they're just gliding along with this freaky, ugly thing. It was like not my favorite part of the movie.
But I do
With
like
the balloon technology, which was funny. That must have been a sex joke because they like erect and then later after they have sex, it shows the outside and they all go like, ew. So I took that as the little like top part of the ship.
Yeah.
It has these three sort of
deflating
things.
Yeah. I thought those were kind of like booby things.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were pulsating, which is like, I guess.
Yeah. No. I meant on the not her spaceship, on the thing that they're inside of going across the ice.
Oh, his thing. His thing.
His like.
Okay.
Oh no, we're talking
thing.
about the manta ray. We're not even at that guy yet. He's not here yet. We're talking about the kids putting her on the manta ray and pulling her.
Right.
And,
okay.
And like they take her into a broken down ship. All the kids come out of the walls, and then they tie her up to some pipes and decide to feed her to their dolls. The dolls are the most confusing thing that you never get any explanation to. I guess these are their toys, right? But that the toys need to eat, or they just want to watch her die. I don't know.
Yeah, these kids are hell bent on watching this woman get eaten alive.
Mm-hmm.
And even later in the movie, there's like there's two girls that are like, oh, let's kill her. Like even later.
I think
these are like the tyrants of their people.
Nieces.
Yeah.
They're the tyrant's nieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
So that relates to these weird alien kids. But yeah, the Catchman shows up and kind of rescues her.
Yeah, the planet is run by a psychopath and everybody is. She says, I want to live amongst my people and be like them and kill like them. Like, so she's just implying that everybody that lives in her city are like insane and just like want to murder each other. And you can just see dead bodies in the streets. I think like the idea behind this was a lot grander than what we get in the movie.
Yeah, it's not fully executed because like I do remember thinking like this is supposed to be a planet of like evil people and like everyone's evil, but like really they're just like chilling on some shag carpet, like smoking man essence, like hey man.
And there wasn't like enough. There wasn't enough to differentiate the like the slums and like ravaged parts of the city from like the affluent rich areas, because like the only difference is that when she lands with the angel guy, it's like a really dirty tube they're going through, and there's people like peering out of like weird fancy looking windows, and there's a corpse in the street. But then later when we're in like the rich area, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they
reused
reused
those were different areas.
Yeah, the angel when they're landing is like, we need to go to one of the back streets so that nobody can see us come in or whatever. And it's like slightly dirtier in certain areas. And like, okay, so this is supposed to be the poor area of town. But then they get to the palace and it just looks the same. So you don't really have that clear, you know, like if one of them was darker and like not as well lit, maybe you would kind of get that. But you know, they were still finding their legs in 1968. How do we differentiate a poor murdery part of town from a rich murdery part of town? I don't know, a giant bong with a man inside it. That's how we know they're rich. Yeah.
That evolves to today as a coconut or not coconut, cucumber water. That's what I kept thinking of. You know, when you go to like the dentist and in the waiting room, they have cucumber water. I was like, in the 60s, they just put a person in there.
Dentist are you going to?
Dentist are you going to?
Hey,
this guy goes to the
rich
dentist.
You want a dentist in Yorkville?
Maybe.
Wow.
In the annex. Maybe not my dentist.
Oh. My lawyer's dentist. Yeah.
Well, yeah. The mayor's dentist.
My dentist's
cucumber
dentist.
water.
Wow.
I don't really. That's not that affluent. I wouldn't say.
Cucumber water in the waiting room.
Cucumber.
If you go anywhere and they have coconut water or not coconut water, cucumber water in the waiting room. Then,
I've only ever seen that at spas.
I've only ever seen that in movies.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, just put some cucumber in some water, and you too can be extremely rich.
You can be a dentist as well. Yeah.
Fun fact. Here's the first fun fact. The original author, Jean-Claude Forest, based the character on Brigitte Bardot, who was the Roger Vadim's previous wife.
Before this movie.
But they went with Jane Fonda.
Wow.
That's
Where
not
does
that
Steven
fun.
keep going?
What?
I mean,
where does Steven keep going?
I have to turn the camera off for a moment when I do stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's doing cocaine. No, we just don't have that on camera.
I'm doing hits of my man bong.
I want to talk about the dolls.
Talk about the dolls and tell us about their teeth.
Their teeth are metallic, I guess. Did the kids, okay, my question is, were these dolls purchased this way, or did the kids rework their mouths?
Yeah, my question is like, are these dolls sentient in any way?
Right, and are they really a threat? Because they move so slowly that I was like, again, the crash sequence, I was like, there's no problem here. You're fine, girl. It's fine. You'll be fine. And then this with the dolls, I was like, what are you afraid of? They're moving so slowly. It's the least threatening thing I've ever seen. And their mouths don't even really clamp.
Like,
no.
I'm just like,
yeah.
Like they can't really grab. I don't know how she got
birds. It's like the birds later where they're just putting a bunch of sound effects over top.
Yes.
Speaking of, this whole movie's ADR'd over, right? They filmed the movie, they finished the movie.
Jason, there was an era where every single movie was ADR. Like they had
I mean, they had to probably. Yeah. If you imagine trying to capture the sound of just 1,000 budgies in a small room.
But okay, fair enough. But what about the fact that the whole movie sounds bad a lot of the time?
I don't know if I agree with that.
That I can't explain.
Yeah, some of the sound effects in this movie are great, but you know,
sound
a lot of
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a teleporter sounding like a cartoon sound effect for like being horny is very funny.
But but this comment, like there were movies from this time that didn't sound and look like this that probably had similar budgets. So it's like I don't think it's just a matter of what was going on in the 60s.
I mean, the difference between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Barbarella is that one was made by a horny man and one was made by a man who is horny for cinema.
Yeah, the difference between Star Wars and Flash Gordon a decade later. One movie.
I would argue that that's not even close to a comparison. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey is still taught as like one of the greatest movies ever made. Barbarella is one of the horniest movies ever made. It doesn't go anything beyond that.
Flash Gordon was pretty horny, Steve, you have to admit.
Yes, yeah.
And you
But
can compare it similarly as a sci-fi.
Listen, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
but I love Barbarella. Barbarella
And I also love
was
Barbarella.
like you can see how bad it is, but it is like I said before, my favorite thing about this movie is just like sheer aesthetics. Like it's just has this like nostalgic, like retro futuristic, like this like 60s version of sci-fi. I'm obsessed with it. It's just beautiful.
I kind of wish they would bring it back. I mean, Star Wars sort of does a little bit with it, and even some of the newer Star Wars, they tried to play around with this kind of stuff, but nothing has gone with sort of like the cone-shaped ships and like the goofy space blasters as much as this, because you know a lot of it is taken like deadly seriously, right? Like even if you look at something like Star Wars Episode 1, where George Lucas really was like going back into those rounded spaceships and like I want to make it look like a sports car or whatever, it still isn't like you're not going to have a joke where Queen Amidala is like, boy, let me teleport something to myself, you know, like that's not happening. The unfortunate reality is like a movie like this will never ever be made at the studio level again. You know, it's going to be indie people who are building models in their garages and trying.
We're gonna have to make it ourselves.
I agree. Let's do it.
I want to see something like this made with modern special effects, so it looks crazy, but it still has this aesthetic. I'd also like to see them do an animated feature. Have you guys ever seen? I think it's there's these old Popeye comic animated films where they animated over live action backgrounds. So like when they're running and it's moving across the background, it's like it's real. So it looks 3D without being 3D. Does that make sense?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Let's see if I can find this. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, where are we in this film? Have we even gotten to Iceman?
The children are about to eat her. The dolls are eating her. I did want to talk about the dolls, but I think we've covered it. Like they're weird, like gross little monster dolls that, like you were asking, do you think that they appear this way when you buy them, or do you even buy them, or are they something that exists in the wastelands that the children are like, well, we found a race of doll robots. Are they robots? Are they sentient? I don't know. Nobody knows, and we never find out because she gets bitten a bunch, and then what are they called? The dark guards or the black guards? I think they come in and like start whipping. They kind of look like
the sound that the whips make as well are mainly just like a scream.
Yeah.
They're just like
wow. Yeah, and those things. I kind of like the way they look, but they have that very stiff sort of like what's the character from Lost in Space, like danger. Like they have that very sort of like 1960s robot vibe where it's like we made a suit of armor and we put it on an actor and it works well enough if you put it in the right light. And in this movie, they never put it in the right light. It's always just like flat and on display. I did like when that one got blown up though. That was pretty cool. Like when it shattered.
A lot of them get blown up.
Yeah, when they get shattered. Yeah.
And then they said, she was like, whoa, there's like nobody in there. And someone was like, yeah, they're Leathermen.
Leathermen, yeah. I was getting to that feeling.
That's not how leather explodes.
Listen, I've met a lot of Leathermen in my life, and none of them look like that.
There's a lot of like language in this movie that I just didn't understand. I actually tried to put on subtitles because I was like, I don't know what anyone's saying. Half the time they're using these like made up words, but like I can't make out. I think the audio is just not good enough that I can't make out what the fuck they're saying.
There is a lot of jarbly talk. And again, I was watching it with somebody and they were like taking notes and asking questions, being like, do you like this outfit? And I'm like, I'm trying to hear what they're saying about the Leatherman. Just calm down.
I read the line so many times. And also my number one complaint about this movie, if I can make a single complaint because it's brilliant, is the amount of space between each actor saying their lines is mortifying. Like the amount of silence between dialogue is just, oh my God, I wanted to cry.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. Like if that was just like, maybe they needed to do it for like, we need to sell this internationally, so we have to be able to leave enough time, like silence wise, so we can put in dubbed lines if a language takes longer to say the thing we're saying, or like I don't know
Maybe.
how it works, but logic.
There's a moment where Barbarella's talking to the tyrant when they're in the dream chamber, and she says something scary, like, "Oh, he took the key" or something, and there is so much silence, and then the tyrant's like, "What?" Like, it's like, you're shocked. It took you so long to be shocked.
Yeah,
I know
reaction time is delayed severely.
I know we moved past it, but I just want to show you guys what I mean right quick. I'll just play this for 2 seconds. But this background here was shot like that's like a miniature that they animated on, and they like this is from 1936,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they like never did it again. And I think that using this sort of technology along with these,
it is technology. You don't have to put it in quotations. It's a
You're
technology.
right.
That does look really cool. Yeah, I have
animation.
never seen that before. Yeah, that's interesting. So, there's a movie called like Psycho Gorman, and they're making another one. The same people that's coming out shortly. I can't remember the name of it, but they utilize a lot of these old sort of classic techniques, and nowadays it's still got the level of charm, but it does have the vibe of like, we filmed this in our garage, and then we also have very high budget moments as well. Like, we spent the budget here, but anytime we have to have something grand, we're going to green screen an actor on a bunch of miniatures. But just having those miniatures adds this level of nostalgic value that I think is almost universal, because most people have seen movies with real models in them, right? Like, even things like Star Wars that have been digitally remastered to the point that it's almost unrecognizable from the original project. You can still gain something from it. And I've seen that stuff tried to be recreated in CG, but it never really works, right? So there is something to be said for the level of charm in having a shitty castle that looks like shit the closer you get to it. And then, like, the more you see, you're like, that's the size of a dinner plate, and they're going to land there. Okay, cool. I mean,
like that whole ending
personally
sequence in Flash Gordon felt like that. With those flashy effects over the castle.
But that, I use that in the intro video, and like, I think that's one of the most successful effects in the movie, even though it's very clearly a miniature with, you know, rotoscoping and whatever you call it when you paint over top of it on it, and you're just like, this looks so nice, even though I can tell it's fake, and I like the fact that I can tell that it's fake, and I'm all for it. You know, you watch like Ghostbusters and stuff, and like the effects in the old movies don't look that great. But I still almost would prefer that they try to do that same sort of level of effect in the new ones. Like, make it look like the old ones, because that'll maybe get people rattling in their head, being like, this
looks spookier.
I think that's what I'm enjoying about Barbarella, is the sort of fakeness of it all. But it's so theatrical to me. It really feels like watching a play.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, actually. The fact that it feels like you're watching a live action play. We did Hook recently, and Hook has this quality to it that feels like you're watching a live action play in cinematic form. And then I saw Wicked like live, and inversely that felt like you're watching a movie on a stage being acted out live. So I like it when these sort of confines are broken.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's a really good point about
I know
that.
we're getting off track, but I do want to like add to the point that you guys are making, which is like, when something feels like it's a sound stage, but also feels like it's lived in and fun. Like, you know, like the Lord of the Rings movies, when they're in those big, thick Fangorn forests where you can like almost smell the moss, but you're like, I know that's not real. Like that, like places like this probably exist, but they're not going to be able to film there. And it feels like, you know, it's a soundstage, and you can kind of almost see the painted background. I love that, because it makes you feel like you're in a storybook. It makes you feel like you're out of reality, and that's what movies are mostly, right? Sometimes when something is too real in a movie, I get uncomfortable. I'm like, this feels too much like real life. I don't like it. I don't like this at all.
I know. I've been watching the Planet of the Apes movies because I haven't seen the new one yet, and we've been watching the old ones. Well, not the old ones, but the newer
James Franco
series.
one on.
And yeah, like I know that the apes are CG and stuff, but like there are moments where it gets too real for even me.
They're good. That's a unique situation where even though the first one is now over a decade old, it's still they still look really good. And they're well-made films. I love the Planet of the Apes quadrilogy.
So
the fourth one's fine.
Again, I know we're completely off track, but I have like a weird soft spot in my heart for the Tim Burton one because it's all practical makeup and like the people are in suits. And like I know it looks kind of cheesy, but it looks a million times better than the 1970s and 60s versions. And I still sometimes I'm like, I kind of wish that they did that for these. I know they wanted to take it to the next level, and they were like, we're gonna have mocap suits, and Andy Serkis is here, and he's gonna be Caesar, and everything's gonna be crazy, and it's gonna be wild, and they're gonna be real apes. I still love that makeup from the Tim Burton one, where they're just like squidgy and monstrous, and you know, wearing real armor, and I don't know, man. And again, all the sets are like clearly sound stages.
Yeah,
so you forget that those in those 60s ones, they're just super anthropomorphic. Like they're just like a person.
I'm not talking about those ones. Those ones.
No,
are like,
I know.
Yeah,
I know. But then you fast forward to these more the recent four, and it's like they pretty much just stay monkeys. Spoilers.
Have you seen the Tim Burton one, Jason? I'm just asking.
They're not monkeys.
I have. But when it came out,
they're apes, Jason. They're chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Right.
Christ.
It's not called Planet of the Monkeys.
Not monkeys. We are apes.
It's basically a slur.
It's true. It's true. I'm sorry for all you apes listening tonight.
Speaking of slurs, and I guess we'll get there, but when she breaks his sex piano, I think he says something that confused me about
Fruity?
the cables. The Duran Duran, when he is R-wording her with his sex piano. She breaks it, and then he's like, "You turned my cables into F words."
Yeah.
What was that?
I think he's saying that because they're like going flaccid at the body of a woman. I think is like what the implication was like.
I missed that.
He says it. He yells it, but it's also kind of like hard to hear what he said. I was also like, did he just say what I thought he saw?
Yeah, I missed it entirely, but Mike was in the room and he was just like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" I was like, "What?"
You're like, everybody, let's team up and cancel Barbarella from 1968.
Yeah.
No, it's my favorite movie.
They definitely say fruity at one point, but it was like
they say what?
Like fruity. But
she called him. I think the tyrant called him a feathered fruit bag.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
but it wasn't.
Bouquet,
it wasn't like a slur. It was like that's just the way they talked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to like get upset about language.
Sure.
But you know, because
an F slur is pretty like that's always meant the same thing.
Yeah,
right.
I know.
So
I don't say I like it. I don't like it.
It also means a bundle of sticks.
Okay, but I don't think that's what he meant when he said it.
I don't know. I was like, is that what he means? Like,
I mean, they are on fire.
They're cables. Okay, they're cables, and he's like, "Oh, you damaged my cables. They've become F words." And I was like, maybe he just means they're like useless.
Inlaying. Yeah. No, I think he meant the bad version, but you know, like,
I'm a Duran Duran apologist.
I'm just glad that when I watch a movie like this, you don't hear it every 5 seconds like you did in the early 2000s, where it was just a straight up punchline. Where you
know what?
If you were going through something at that time, watching a movie with all your buddies in the theater, and you just felt like you were being gut punched over and over again, that's not great.
This movie really did have a lot fewer slurs than it could have.
Yeah,
like this type of movie, this particular movie could have gone to a totally different place.
I think that like there was a time where it was almost just like, we're not going to talk about this at all. We're not even going to have jokes about it at all. And then in the 80s and late 70s, it became like, let's just talk about it all the time as a punchline because people think it's funny. And then that doubled down into the 90s. Yeah. Well, Gay Panic is a joke. It's a gay joke. And like that even still happens today. It doesn't happen as predominantly as it used to, but even up until like 2010, like there's gay panic jokes in like Transformers movies and stuff, you know, and you're just like,
I agree with Steven. We should go back to not addressing it at all.
Yeah. That's like Marjorie Taylor Greene's fucking stance on homosexuality.
You ask her about trans rights, and she calls you the F slur.
And you're like, what? Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm gonna get us back on track here. So
but I want to rant about kitty litter boxes in primary school bathrooms. Just give me 5 minutes. Yeah.
Mark
You
Hand.
call Jane Fonda the sexkin.
She is a sexkin. God damn it. Oops. Had one too many to drink, and now I'm gonna unload. Nope. Poor choice of words.
Oh my God.
Mark Hand directs
Barbarella.
where she meets a blind angel named Pygar, the last of the
last unicorn.
Ornithanthropes. Ornithanthropes. Ornithanthropes?
Yeah, something like that. That's good.
He agrees to help her if she restores his will to fly. She gives him a quick handy, and he's like, I can fly again.
Wait, so we didn't even talk about how Barbarella is after sex. It's
right, okay.
She's like the
there's a really funny scene where he takes off his fur. Well, first he's like, she's like, what do you want? And he's like, there's one thing that I want. And she's like, what? He's like, the primitive way. And he's like, and she's like, that old nonsense.
Wait,
I mean, you're paraphrasing in a way that's making it seem way more rapey than it actually is.
Okay, so this shocked me because I didn't know this movie was gonna be like this until
yes, Marianna, tell us all about it. Thank you.
She was like, I got that it was gonna be like a kind of cute, flirty, sexy movie, but until this moment, I didn't realize that there was gonna be full fucking. And she was like laying there and she's like, oh, you rescued me. Is there something I could do to repay you? And in my mind, I was like, as if he's going to say, have sex with me. Like that would be ridiculous. And then he's like, you can make love to me. And I was like, what?
Well, you could make love to me. Yeah. And she's like,
that was shocking.
But she's also like, okay, like she's like, what the fuck? Yeah. How is this payment? Okay.
Why would I do that? That's gross. And then
but she thinks it's the sex that she's used to on her planet, which is not having sex and doing like a weird hand ritual.
Yeah, and I do have to say there is kind of this thin film of like non-consensual sex.
Oh yeah, because there's like there's a level of
but
the free love movement had also, if
it had blossomed at this point, Woodstock hadn't happened yet,
but it's around this time that hippies exist. This is a very hippie.
Yeah.
Wait, when was Woodstock? Was it 67? I don't even know.
67, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So it's after Woodstock.
Barbarella is kind of like the Austin Powers of space.
I would say.
This movie,
I would say.
This feels like it would be Austin Powers' favorite movie. Like he would be like, my favorite, even though he said it's Inline Flint in the second one. That's my favorite movie. But he would probably like Barbarella too, maybe a close second.
I'm sure Austin Powers 4 was slated to be Austin Powers in space.
Imagine, is Jane Fonda in any of the Austin Powers movies? Like as a cameo? Feels like it would be a natural pull, right?
Maybe.
But I think you're right. Actually, I don't think you're right. You are completely right. There is like a thin veil of like non-consent to it because she has like a level of ignorance, right? Where she doesn't even, she's like, I've never had sex. I don't even know why you would do that. But then
it made me so uncomfortable for that.
It is, but there's also a very funny visual gag where she's like preparing herself and she just lies there like flat, like in like the most unflattering angle.
Okay.
That you could possibly lie. And she's like, all right, whenever you're ready. And he's like, please, without your garments. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess I have to remove my garments.
There's like the only reference to
what?
It looks like the only reference to Barbarella, even in Austin Powers, is the credits covering his parts.
Oh, okay.
That's not even really fully
yeah.
That's just like a funny thing to do.
Because it's not even that well done in Barbarella. So
I mean, in Austin Powers, it's very well done in both or all three. Doesn't he do it in all of them? Like he just is naked running around for 12 minutes at the beginning of every movie.
so even
Or is
though
that
this
just- Yeah.
this Iceman is semi-rapey, I think he was kind of polite about it. And
Yeah.
also,
I think if she said no, he would have been like, okay, very well.
yeah, like he kind of seems reasonable. He made a request, you know?
And she said yeah.
But also there's just something weirdly attractive about him, and I can't tell you why. I don't know.
You like a hairy man.
He's a
Do you know
wilderness
what?
man.
I think what's happening is I'm relating so much to Barbarella, and she is so out of it after that. I'm like, this man must.
What did he do?
Yeah, this guy must
Look at
have
him.
a magic system.
Yeah. A magic
Well,
sex
she's
organ.
never. She.
like at the end
I
of the
think that
movie.
she's had the sex that she describes, which is you have to have the correct psychocardiogram. It has to be perfect, and it has to have the perfect confluence. Whatever the fuck that means, scientific jargon. But I don't think that she's ever had traditional sex because the Earth is so advanced that they do it in this weird.
No, she
sterile way
hasn't.
that
She says she
describes.
hasn't. She says that because you have to be perfectly aligned, it's rare that they do it, and only poor people have sex the old-fashioned way, which is he's like, well, sometimes the old ways are the best, or whatever. And she's like, wouldn't you agree, Barbarella? After they've done it already, and you're like, yeah, okay.
And then he rocks her world so hard that she's just like on Dream Street, and then she's like, you know, maybe we do that some more. And then there's some funny gags.
Well, she
that we'll
does
get to
multiple times,
involving
but
it.
he's also
Yeah.
like, feel free to help yourself to my furs. And she picks out the one awesome skunk dress that he has. It's like, yes, my skunk dress. I haven't fit into that since I was 14 years old.
There's a lot of I have to say my apologies to Michael for talking about how horny this Iceman makes me, but also this is a horny movie. Leave me alone.
Yeah. He's rubbing like linseed oil and olive oil on his chest right now, hoping it'll stimulate hair growth on his body.
There is kind of a running thing in this movie too of people handing her outfits or like letting her put on an outfit, and they just happen to have the most insane Barbie-like outfit. Just on the like when after the sex piano thing. She's like, oh, could you hand me a garment? And he just gives her this like beautiful little dress. Like, what?
While he's like explaining his evil plan, he's very agreeably giving her clothes to wear. Yeah, that's very funny too.
There's also a funny gag that doesn't really pay off, and it only happens a couple times where when she meets somebody new, she speaks French at them. She's like, you speak French? And
and she's like, he's like, no, it's because she's trying all the languages, and she's like, oh, I guess I have to adjust my tongue box.
Well, and if you'll recall, the president of the Earth is French.
Yeah, so that means the national or the international language of Earth is French.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the name Jean-Claude Forest is pretty French, who's the author of Barbarella, and also Roger.
Maybe he played the president. It's possible. I didn't look it up.
The director is also French, I believe.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the name? Say it again.
Jean-Claude, what was it? Frenchman? Jean-Claude Frenchman.
What's his name?
Jean-Claude Forest.
No, that's the director?
That's the writer.
The writer. The director is Roger Vadim.
Who I think is also
Roger Vadim. That sounds French.
It's Roger Vadim Pleminikov.
Oh, wow.
Sounds almost Russian. Oh, yeah, it is Russian. It is Russian, yeah.
That's not French at all.
Claude Dauphin is the president of Earth.
His father was a white Russian military officer and also a famous pianist.
Okay. I guess okay.
I would venture to guess that this movie is probably inspired by a lot of French cinema.
Yeah.
Based on how horny it is.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, Jason.
Well, isn't French cinema kind of known for its sexiness?
Yeah. Horniness. Yes.
horniness.
Yeah,
I'm
this
gonna
was
put
it was the 60s. Everything was horny in the 60s.
everyone was horny. Every free
Everything
love.
was, but I think there was definitely a French influence.
Yeah.
There has to be. The amount of just focus on.
This was the era when people were still like, I'm going to make a black and white movie like 4 times a year. You know, there were still black and white movies coming out. I'm like, oh my God, people are really grasping to that no color
Yeah,
thing.
this is Technicolor.
Where
Nowadays, a black and white movie comes out and it's like art film immediately. It can't just be a normal movie. Yeah.
Right.
Give it every award at cons.
Or it's Sin City. And you're like,
yeah. It's like, ugh, why does it look so
this
muddy?
movie is hornier and more problematic than Barbarella.
Where are we in the movie?
We are at,
she has just had sex for the first time.
Well, goodbye and thanks again. ... for everything.
Yeah, she does the double
again.
take.
Yeah. We meet Professor Ping. He's repairing the ship. Barbarella and Pygar meet Professor Ping.
Professor Ping is kind of like a
spaceship.
He's almost like a fawn, you know, like
he's the one that made you the most horny.
Yeah, he reminds me of a mythical creature, the fawn. He reminds me of like
a satyr.
Yeah, a satyr, like a creature who lives in the forest, who gives into carnal desires and loves drinking and revelry and sex and fun. He just looks like one in so many ways.
Yeah, do you know that
little like glass that he's like?
Oh yeah. What the hell was that? Hold on.
That's an appraisal piece that you use to like examine diamonds and
on his forehead.
But you can stick them because they have like a little like suction cup, so you can put them in your eye and you can hold it there without having to.
Oh, so he's just holding it there. He's not using it.
He just sticks it up there to be like, I'm gonna keep it there while I do.
And
stuff.
to do little tricks with.
A satyr, I guess classically would have a large, exaggerated permanent erection.
Yes, he didn't, unless they just never showed him from the waist.
No, but I just think it's funny that that is the character that made you the most horny, and you think he looks like a fawn.
He does look
also,
like a fawn.
When he puts that thing on his head, it's kind of like a.
It is.
You know,
it's like a little wiener,
a little horn, a little wiener.
Yeah, it is. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
it's a little
so
wiener.
phallic.
He's like the fawns. Hey.
Oh boy.
He's also sort of like a genius, I guess. Like he figures out how to keep everybody alive in the maze. He also discovers how to fix her ship.
Right, that ship. She's like, "Oh, can you fix my ship? It has a fucking huge hole in it." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll figure it out.
I can do that." Yeah.
What are you gonna do down here? You have rocks.
That's all you got is rocks and orchids, and everybody's eating the orchids.
He fixed it, and then he programmed it to fly away somewhere safe.
On its own. Yeah, he's a genius. He's been able to maintain his genius even while lost in a labyrinth.
Yeah.
I do assume that he probably also had sex with the angel man at some point, and when she has sex with him and he can fly, he's like, interesting therapy. And then I feel like there's a cut line where he's like, he didn't do that when I had sex with him. What the hell? And he's probably upset about it after.
We have a thing for when you have a theory.
That's my theory.
That's your theory. Yeah. So yeah, we've kind of skipped over Pygar a little bit though. He's blind. His eyes were taken by the Night Queen, I believe.
Yeah.
He gives a story.
There's a labyrinth below the City of Night. The City of Night's introduced. All the freaks live below. The Grand Grotesques. They introduced the Grand Grotesques, which are only shown for a second. It's a guy with like a green screen chest.
Right. That
slowly
felt
disappearing.
Like it was supposed to be something more, or like we were gonna see them again.
No, just different freaks, just different Grand Grotesques.
Yeah, I think this entire thing is like everything leading up to them getting to the city makes you feel like this is going to be an army to revolt at the end to take over.
Yeah,
but it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The guy with the hole in the chest is like that was probably some sort of mind blowing effect the time. Like people were like,
That's what it
he's
felt
got a
like.
hole in him, but like it doesn't quite look like a hole. Like everything's
No.
blurry, like they're projecting it on him or something. It's like
It
this
doesn't look
great.
good, but you could tell that it was just like, look at this, pretty
Yeah,
cool.
you imagine the remake now as the guy turns and it's like clearly just a big chunk missing from him, and he's got maybe a couple other chunks missing, and you're like, oh man, this guy's withering away into nothing. And then it cuts to like some other guy who's like trapped in the rock with like a woman right in front of him, and he's just touching her breasts. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, okay, baby, I'm okay to be trapped in these rocks as long as I get to squeeze your boobs for all eternity.
Yeah, that's true. There's those weird rock people that are just like stuck out banging for all eternity, like you said. Pygar literally lives in a nest. He's an angel man who lives in a nest. And we get one of those weird cuts where it's like, oh, you live in a nest, and then cut to her banged, and he's like, I can see and I can fly again.
Hold on.
I know he can't see.
No. we have to give the moment to Barbarella, because she says it's a nest, and he looks worried, and he's like, yes, and then she says it's marvelous. Like she's actually just like so happy that he lives in a nest, because she's like, what else was I thinking you would live in? And like her like absolute sort of like intrigue and love of the fact that he lives in a nest makes him so happy, where he's like, oh, I'm glad you like it, I'm so happy. Everyone else calls me a weirdo for living in a nest. They all just live in the walls or whatever.
Can I ask, is Barbarella, are Barbarella and Pygar meant to be romantically interested in each other, or are they like just friends that fucked?
I think they're just friends that fucked, and I think that Pygar is incapable of having a meaningful and substantial relationship with anybody. I think because he's just he's a beautiful idiot who's like, of course I'll make love to you, and then you make love to him, and he's like, what do you mean we made love? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
That literally happens. But he says like Pygar cannot make love, or angels cannot make love. Angels are love.
Yeah, he is love.
Right, but they did make love.
They banged. Oh yeah, in that, because she wakes up in his like nest floofs, all like dazed again.
But what he says is that he cannot be in love because he is love. Like, so he's just always so like he exists in a state of constant love of everything, right? So like even if you're torturing him, he'd be like, don't worry, I still love you. Like, I love everything you're doing right now. He's just a sweetie.
Singing. The singing is like, what is she singing? Is she's just making up, like she has like a feather and she's just like,
yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, Pygar lost the ability to fly, then he regained it back.
No, he lost the will to fly. He didn't lose the ability. He just didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, he says something about like, oh, one of my muscles is all jacked up.
Atrophy of the whatever muscle, which I guess is just from not using it because he has no will to fly.
Yeah. Oh shit! I was going to say something.
So I wanted to say we touched on the fact that they're trying to remake this with Sydney Sweeney, and I'm going, are they just going to get Glenn Powell to be Pygar?
Well, here's the thing: is that you keep talking about Sydney Sweeney, which I don't particularly care about. I'm more interested in the director, which is Edgar Wright. Yes, please.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be an insane movie with all your favorites. Like Simon Pegg's gonna show up as probably Ping.
Yeah. I was thinking, is he gonna be the organ man? Like,
Nick Frost is gonna be Dildano.
I mean, it would be great. I think that
Sydney Sweeney would be perfect.
Well, yeah, of course. I think that, especially for like a modern take, I think that she would be a very good Barbarella.
Yeah.
I would have said, what's her name from Barbie not too long ago? What was her name?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie,
pretty good.
Actually, I wanted to ask if you guys think that this movie had anything to do with Barbie, because
Simon Ping. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
Because it's kind of a similar story. She's like,
it's a very similar story. She's trying to like get back her kind of femininity through all these dumb men coming at her, and she's like,
sort of. It's not really a similar story, super in like the plot, but in the sense that this woman is traveling to a different world to accomplish something, and I guess you go on this adventure with her. It is that kind of like template, I guess. But way hornier.
Way hornier. Yeah, I think Barbie is sort of like the perfect example of like making a movie that can be stereotypical but changing and breaking all the rules to at the end of the day make something that's a very strong movement in the terms of like this movie is very feminist, whereas like this movie is not necessarily feminist, but if you look at it through the right lens, you can pick and choose a lot of stuff from this movie that can be considered very feminist as well.
And I don't know when the Barbarella comics started, but
They
Barbies
started. Sorry, go ahead.
but Barbies themselves must have been a huge thing at this point, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. The Barbie episode, we had like a Barbie expert on and just knew every single piece of information about Barbie. But I think it would have been
assume
before
the
this.
60s were like big Barbie times.
I think it was like a few years before this, but yeah, Barbie definitely, I think, existed. Maybe there was like a Barbarella Barbie.
Oh my God.
A Barbierella.
A Barbarella. Yeah, Barbie
but like
debuted in 1959, so this is like peak Barbie until like the
right.
90s.
So it makes perfect sense to me why they would dress her up Barbie style and make her like, I don't know what the comics were like. I've never like, maybe that existed before.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like,
yeah.
so that's one of like the very fun aspects of the Barbie movie is like the outfit changes and how it's sort of like a point of empowerment throughout the movie. Whereas in this,
Oh my God.
this could be used as an example of the opposite of that. But I think in retrospect, watching the Barbie movie, this is also doing the same thing and like showing different versions of Barbarella as she's going through the story. She changes outfits literally before your eyes because you could see her in a different light. I think it's like pretty smart and fun, and good.
Yeah.
So Barbarella, the comics exist before and go on till after. So the publication dates were 62 to 78, and the genre is erotic science fiction. So
Wait, so it started after Barbies were commercially available?
Yeah. So this feels like it was fully for adults, and the comic books were probably, it's interesting too that Tim said this about how if there's more violence, there's heavy metal, because this next sequence where they're flying up to Sogo and they're like fighting ships, I was like, this is a heavy metal comic strip.
Yeah, this part like I find very difficult to watch. Like it actually kind of hurts my brain watching it. Like my brain starts to shut down mentally. I'm like, I'm not processing what's happening. I'm not going to remember any of this, and I forget. I've seen the movie I think 3 times now, and I always the subsequent 2 times after the first time forget that this part exists because my brain actually just turns off because it's like the same angle over and over again of the bad guy ship just being like and then just like floating, and then they land safely. So like nothing really happens. They dip and dive, and this is like one where the movie really feels its age, where I'm not sort of absorbing what's happening because it stops my brain from operating. Same with the crash sequence at the beginning. I forget how long it is until I'm in it. And I'm like, how many more different lava lamps do we have to look at before she crashes the ship? Please?
Yeah, I feel the same with any sort of like even like the best movie. Like I could be watching like the best Star Wars and like the chase and shooting ships sequences. Like I'm always fucking zoned out. I have no idea what's going on. And it's the same with any action movie. Anytime there's like a lot of fighting, like a Deadpool movie, he starts fighting everybody and like it's cool. I see it. It's cool. But I zone out after like a minute of it. I'm just like, all right, I've had enough.
I'm the opposite because I like fight choreography. So Deadpool and Wolverine was like, and all the
Deadpool and Wolverine, I like the actual choreography when it's real people, but as soon as it's CG spaghetti men fighting each other, I'm like, I'm watching a video game cutscene now. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you guys say that because my wife, through all of those, we went to all the Marvel movies together. She loves all that Marvel stuff, but she falls asleep during the action sequences.
Me too.
And she's like, wake me up when they're talking again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel the same. And I don't know what it is. My brain is just like, I think it's an overload. Like, I think
like,
it's
yeah.
I think it's just so much. It's like, I'm overstimulated and I just shut down. Like, my brain is like, I can't take in all this information at once. Like,
I have the same issue, but I can it's only for specific types of movies. Marvel movies are a very good example because as soon as it starts to become a video game, my brain starts to be like, I don't care. I would rather play a video game than watch a video game. So like I start to slow down. But then I think of stuff like The Matrix, where the choreography and like people fighting is like so visceral and real, and you can see puffs of dust coming off of people, and I'm like, whoa, they actually are real people doing this, and I'm invested in it because I'm like, someone's gonna get hurt if you punch like that. But when it's CG stuff, it doesn't really work for me. And that's not to say that you're wrong if you like it. It's just like I can't focus anymore after a while.
Yeah, something, it becomes blurry for me. It's like it's the same with like car chases for me. Like when when
I go see a really long movie with long action sequences, and it's maybe a 3.5 hour movie, 2.5 hour movie, I like save I have to pee breaks where I'm like, okay, an action sequence is starting, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Same. Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that.
I did just rewatch the
I'm one of the people that is like, Dune is too talky. Get to the action. Okay. Sorry.
I was gonna say I just rewatched the John Wick movies, all of them, and I was like, okay, this is an example of like action that is smart because it's taking you into consideration. It's not trying to be like, what is the coolest thing we can do? It's what is the most visually interesting thing we can do with real people to make sure that you don't want to miss the next thing. When real people are doing impressive things, you're impressed and you want to watch more. Where when it's Iron Man flying around with War Machine and they're shooting a bunch of fireworks at a rubber man, like I don't really care that much because I know that Iron Man's probably going to win.
Yeah, that's a good point about the John Wick movies. They have their choreography is almost like dance. The way that he's fighting his way through like a nightclub. Like he has like somebody in a headlock and he's like bam bam and then throws that person and then shoots. Like I do know what you're saying. Actually Michael said it like right at the same time. It's like badass ballet.
Yeah.
I think they try to do that with Deadpool too.
I think they did like enough practical stuff, but there's so much in there that they're like, okay, and then he throws him and he like hits like 10 different levels of a staircase and then falls and lands in a funny direction, and I'm like, well, he's a cartoon now. He turned into a cartoon. Which for me actually helps because I like whenever they slow it down and you really see the motion or like the thing that's happening, it helps me stay engaged in the fight sequence because like otherwise it really is just moving too fast and I'm done. My brain's done. Right.
But like with Deadpool, like I haven't seen the John Wick movies, but everybody tells me that it's like this. I've heard this a million times, this same thing. But yeah, anytime they kind of like focus in on the actual movement itself and the thing, I can stay in better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm watching a TV show right now called Banshee, which has Anthony Starr, who's Homelander, now on The Boys. It's where he kind of started out. And the show is pretty schlocky. It's a Cinemax show, so there's like full sex scenes that go on for too long, and it's there's a lot of like really weird bloody blood squib like fight scenes. But there was a fight sequence in an episode today where they fight inside of a car, like in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, and
it was one of the most brutal like television fights I've ever seen. And all I could think about was how is somebody a fan of Banshee? Because you don't see a fight inside of a car very often. And they did it in this.
Well,
Jugular gets ripped out, which was pretty intense.
I would like to get back to the movie we're talking about, but
you're right.
But hold on, the fight in Deadpool where they're in the car is probably the highlight of the entire movie in terms of action sequences. It's like funny, such a weird spot to have a fight, and they utilize everything in the car.
It's almost a sex scene. I know.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that now as well. Like, they're not fighting. Like, they fight for a bit, but then the reason they're all tuckered out afterwards is because they did it. And I'm like, whoa, yes.
I just took it as the fighting was the fucking, because they're inserting their parts into each other.
Okay, all right, Jason.
Okay,
we already talked about horniness. We don't want to get into a whole another discussion about it.
You're right. Okay, Barbarella is captured by the concierge, who is Duran Duran in disguise. He straps her into the excessive machine designed to kill via pleasure. but she destroys it with her insatiable endurance.
Am I wrong when I say it's a sex organ? Like, it is an organ.
No,
yeah.
it's brilliant. My brain didn't go there. I was just like, what is this sex piano?
Like that's where the idea must have come up with, is like
sex organ.
They were like, it's like a sex organ, a literal organ that is having sex with you, and you know, that's again where the LSD man bong stuff. I'm like, okay, there's some real horny guy out there in Barbarella land who's like just coming up with these concepts. What if he's so hairy, but it's a suit, and then he takes off the suit and he's even more hairy underneath, like that kind of stuff.
And before that, we're introduced to the chamber of ultimate solution, which I was like, ugh.
Yeah, which is basically a suicide booth from Futurama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets thrown. Okay, so that's weird that it's putting that there, because she meets Dildano
after
that.
Yes, a little bit after. Yeah, she goes into the suicide booth, and then it's giving her the options, and before they're about to take one of the options, the doors that kill you, they don't really tell you what is going to happen. It's just like, one of these will kill you, and everything is full of screaming. And then Duran shows up, and
there's a quote that she has. I don't remember when, but at some point someone's screaming, and she's like, "What's all this screaming?" And I had to write it down. I think she said, "A good many situations begin with screaming."
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's just like Jane Fonda, like, what am I?
It's just one of those, it's like another one of those sort of lines that they gave her to just like,
sound vaguely erotic, but you're like, what is that? Is she talking about sex maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't even think about that, but more like, just like, here's a thing that could be a joke, but is absolutely not. Like, here's a, say it like it's a joke.
Yeah, like it's a punchline, and people be like, oh, everyone in the theaters looking at each other being like, that was funny, right? We're supposed to laugh at that.
Well, yeah, that was funny, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
There's a lot of those in this, but like, even like Essence of Man, where I'm like, okay, like
they fall so flat because they're just not jokes. They really are just like lines. They're just lines.
It reminds me of like when I was a kid and I would watch a movie with my parents and they would laugh at stuff, and I would be like, why is that funny? And then rewatch that movie as an adult and be like, oh, I see, it's an attempt at funny, but it's still not funny to me even like 30 years later. I'm like, were they just laughing because they knew that somebody put a tiny bit of effort into a joke?
Right.
So like,
yeah, they don't process the joke though.
It just makes me think that everyone's crazy or dumb. I'm like, is everyone crazy or dumb, or what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they built the Big Bang Theory on that premise alone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can make crazy dumb people laugh at this.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of clips of that. Like James Earl Jones was in an episode, I think, because he passed away yesterday. R.I.P. Best man who ever lived. I love him. But like his introductory line is like, let me guess, you like Star Wars, and then it's just Sheldon like nodding and like everybody like exploding with laughter. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the laugh track just like claps and laughs for 10 straight minutes.
Jason, I know people love to think that those shows had laugh tracks, but those were real live audiences laughing because a little sign told them to. So it's like just like, like it's even more horrible, I think, than like using a fake laugh track is having a live studio audience full of like seals, like live people clapping like.
It's just like this groupthink thing. Just deliver it like it's a joke, and they will laugh.
And they'll laugh.
Well, they also punch it up with canned laughter, which is intense when you think about canned laughter. Some of it was recorded in like the 70s. So even in the 90s, when you're watching old sitcoms, those people in the laugh tracks died 20 years before. So the modern day sitcom, like these ancient ghost zombies, are still laughing it up.
Ghost zombies. Oh my gosh.
Maybe people that were laughing in the 70s were dead by the 90s.
Potentially.
Yeah, they all smoked cigarettes. They were dead.
Yeah. If they were filmed in like if the canned laughter was filmed in like the 60s by the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, so there's no way they lived another 30 years.
No. No.
Listen, I saw that fact one time in the early days of the internet, and it blew my fucking mind. Okay. And
It's a good
it's
fact.
not really a fact when you call me out on it on my show. That's
No,
been our show for
fact. It's a fact. It's a good fact. It's just
Barbarella meets the Black Queen, or the Great Tyrant,
She's
who has a
hot.
sadistic interest in Pygar, who's hot and also is like pretty.
I can't with that. This fucking Larry David pretty.
Yeah, I'm like, did Larry David get this from this movie?
From Barbarella.
I can't. That bothered me. That woman was so hot, except for that.
Pretty.
I think they like needed to have her have some sort of affectation that would allow you to realize it was her, because her outfits were changing just as drastically as Barbarella's, but she's not in every scene. So you're like, is that the same person? And the first time you meet her, she has an eye patch, and then the second time you meet her, she doesn't have an eye patch.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
her life is spared at the end.
I've seen this movie multiple times, and every time I've watched it, I'm like, is that the same as the knife lady in the alley? And then like she's like, hello, pretty. I'm like, it is her. She's saying pretty again.
Yeah, I had that same.
She's also super horny for Barbarella.
I think she's just horny for everything. She's horny for murder. She's
so in this movie, in this world, to be evil is to be horny.
Oh, I never considered that.
I mean, it really is, because like the people in this evil world, like we said, are not really that evil. Like, I guess, you know, in those back alleys, there were some shady characters, but for the most part, the people that are lying around the palace are just kind of like lazy and smoking man bong. So it's like, they're just laying around, and they're all kind of like weirdly sexual and like horny. So like, what's evil then? Is it evil to be horny?
I mean, the queen herself murders several people, and you see corpses in the street as soon as you get there. So like, ooh. But yes, it does seem that horniness also equates to being evil, which I didn't really consider. And it's like, I guess this world is of carnal desires, which is
something that humankind has kind of moved away from in this time, because
if you're rich,
because you are elevated and you've I guess, but then Barbarella becomes extremely horny as well. She's like, oh my god, let's do that again.
She never did it before, so the first time she did it, she's like, wait a minute, maybe these poor people know where it's at.
Yeah,
I guarantee you there's like a weird version of sex in our actual reality that only really rich people do, that we've never even dreamt of. I guarantee you that exists. Like Elon Musk probably has some weird sex chamber that does weird things that we don't even know exist yet.
It happens on
like he has that Neuralink or whatever. He's like, this is the Neuralink X, and it is for XXX rated material. And people are like, oh god, can I do this with someone else other than you?
The thought of Elon Musk in any sexual situation is making me want to carve my brain out.
Yeah. Imagine he showed up and he's wearing that fursuit and he's like, hello, Barbarella.
There's that grotto in California that's supposedly run by like the real life Court of Owls secret society.
The Bohemian Grove? Are you talking about
Bohemian Grove? Yeah.
What is this?
But that's all men. That's all men that go.
But it's also like the elite.
Yeah, it's like rich people go to like this. It's almost like a summer camp for billionaires.
Like a retreat, yeah.
And they all go into the woods.
You talking about Jeff Epstein's island?
No,
that's different.
Although all of the Jeff Epstein people were definitely at the Bohemian Grotto in California.
And I'm pretty sure that Jeffrey Epstein probably went to the Bohemian Grove. But yeah, what
goes on there?
They worship an owl, and they do like a bunch of camp games, but apparently there's a lot of weird sex stuff that goes on, even though it's all men. And they have like this big,
and allegedly they sacrifice people.
Okay, Jason.
And allegedly they don't drink the adrenochrome of children.
They have what is called an effigy, which, if you know what that means, it means it looks like a person that they burn in front of a big owl statue. I don't think that they actually sacrifice people, because there's enough information about the Bohemian Grove that if their people were being burned alive, they probably would have figured it out by now.
I don't know. The Wicker Man was a documentary, wasn't it?
Was it?
This feels like a Fern Gully situation, Jason. Allegedly.
No, listen. I know that it's on paper, it's probably on the up and up, but it is, the elite billionaires. And Steve
Anyway,
did just
it's
bring
like
up the fact that
it's a gross, weird thing that rich people do that none of us will ever be able to see. Apparently, Alex Jones tried to sneak in there once, and he was like, "I went in there, and everybody was trying to fuck me." And we're like, "Okay, Alex, calm down. Nobody was trying to fuck you, buddy." Anyway, yeah, it's a weird.
Donald Trump's been there.
It's a weird summer camp for rich people and elitist people, but
to bring it back to this movie is what the lady emperor's whole vibe is.
Yeah.
I bring my sexy weirdos up here and we do weird sex games to each other. We got this murder device. It's basically a gas chamber.
Yeah,
Luckily, Jill Dano.
She captures the angel guy and then
crucifies him,
and Barbarella had snuck a gun into his pants, which I was like, when they showed that, I was like, what? Why would you do that? And then I guess she had the foresight. She's smart, man. She knew while they were flying through the air, I gotta hide a gun in this guy's pants.
I do like that when she's
gonna come in handy.
Yeah. When she's hiding it, she goes, excuse me, just like shoves it into right in his dick area too. Like he's like, oh, that's cold.
She knew that was gonna come up later somehow, and boy did that pay off. This evil lady crucified him and then just had him around as like a sex toy. Like what was that what that was?
It seemed like she was just trying to torture him for the sake of it, but also using Barbarella as a tool for torture in terms of like, I don't know, like the idea of I guess like the idea of her is fresh in his head, so she's like, I need to use this as a tool. Like, what is it like to love him or love her?
Yeah. She was asking like, what do you think about when you make love to Barbarella?
And he's like, I am love. I don't think about anything. It just oozes out of me. And you're like, oh,
angel is love. Yeah. And yes, Dildano is for sure.
Dildano is absolutely a reference. Let's get through this Dildano scene. She falls down into Dildano's cage dome area underneath the murder machine. He reveals that a lot of tubes coming in and out. Some people come in head first, some people come in legs first. I was like, what the fuck? He reveals to her that there's like a rebellion against the great tyrant. They do like a weird sex comedy moment, I guess is the best way to put
his
it.
Hair sticks up when he's like,
yeah. She's like done early, which I think is a joke, where she gets what's hers, and he takes forever. And then when her hair goes all smoky and curls up like your toes would curl, and then when she goes back in, she looks at the camera and she's like, oh right, he's not done. And when he finishes, did you see the little like gust of smoke shoot out of his finger?
Yeah, his hand started smoking.
Yeah.
And then there was like a little
I assume the joke there is that like women usually are like left in the wake of the man's orgasm, and this guy's like sitting there being like, please, I need to finish or I'll die.
And then I thought it was really funny that while she goes to like he's like, you could put on the clothes of the rebellion, and she's like trying on clothes, and he's like fixing his hair back up, and she like keeps poking out. She's like, I don't really like the red on this one. And then she ends up wearing like a one breast outfit for a while, which that's my favorite outfit.
Which
to go back to the question from why does he have that?
That's what I'm saying. Like all these guys have these weird ass girl outfits like that are just ready to go in case a woman comes in and needs to change.
I mean, maybe Dildano is wearing that on the weekends. Who knows?
Well, it should be noted too that she sits down and she's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And he's like, no, that's a savage way to do it. We do it the Earth way. She's like, but we're on this planet. And he's like, listen, I don't need those primitive ways. We can do it the Earth way. And then she's like, oh.
That's to show that Dildano is a respectful gentleman, I guess. But also
that's true. But she's been getting dicked down for the last like couple days.
Yeah, she wanted to do it the old-fashioned way, but he was like, no, we can't do it that way. And like, I don't know. I guess that's supposed to make you be more endeared to Giordano, but he looks like he's never done it the new fashion way either. Like maybe he should have done it because he looks like he's in pain. And then it takes the rest of the movie for him to get his hair back down. He never fully gets it back down again.
No, he's got that weird
sort of
afro.
sweetly innocent.
That's why I like him. He's got this sort of like he's just trying to be good, like in everything that he does. Yeah.
He's not much of a leader of a revolution, I'll say.
No.
He's a fucking
he lost his invisible key. You would think he would take very good care of that invisible key, but he let his ADHD take over.
He keeps bumping into stuff. Like he's kind of dumb.
Maybe he's never met somebody as beautiful as Barbarella, so he's just nervous around her. He's like, "Oh my god, I have to."
Oh, and the murder machine she was in was the birds, the parakeets attacking her mercilessly. We forgot to mention that.
Right. That's what led her down to. She falls through a trap door that.
Yeah, he opens like a trap door underneath and saves her.
I assume the whole city is full of trap doors everywhere and tubes that like suck you around all over the city.
Death by budgies.
Yeah,
and apparently, what budgies would do to you? Nothing.
Like nothing. They're just flying.
I mean, enough budgies, you're dead. Enough budgies, you're dead.
Imagine if the Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds was just parakeets and budgies.
That was the first draft. It was called Alfred Hitchcock's The Budgies.
And somebody's like, Mr. Hitchcock, I know you're a horror genius, but you know, crows.
Yeah. What if we just make it all birds? He's like,
yes, true. That's a good idea.
I have a question.
Impressions.
Yeah, that's one of the draws of the show. He does micro impressions, like one or two sentences.
I don't know. That was a pretty good full-on Alfred Hitchcock impression, I think.
That's true.
Yeah, I wasn't being sarcastic.
Jason will start a Barbarella. Good evening.
Giordano gives her a device to stop time, allegedly, but that's never paid off.
What?
What is it? To stop time?
Yeah.
What?
Apparently.
What? No.
I missed that. The plot to overthrow the Great Tyrant, or they plot to overthrow the Great Tyrant and escape the city.
He gives her an invisible key, which I kind of like the gag because it's so stupid. Where you're like, okay, he opens it and she's like, "There's no key there," and he's like, "It's invisible," and you're like, okay, the gag is gonna be that he lost the key, and then that's exactly like it's very predictable, but like everything about it is pretty funny. It's quite slapsticky. Where then he goes to grab it and he does like the over exaggerated like, "Oh fuck, where's the key?" And then he's looking around his entire workbench, and he finds it. And then every time they're interacting with this invisible key, there's this nice like wind chime noise, like
the jingle. Yeah, I thought that was cute.
Me too.
I like that.
And I like that he's trying to tie it around her neck, and he's like, "It's hard to tie because it's invisible. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm sorry." There is something that's very cute about Giordano. Like he is basically just a dildo, right? Like she's just like, I just want to use you like a dildo and like leave you behind while I go on to my rest of my adventures.
Yeah.
Is that why he's called Giordano? Like he's sort of like he's just a little thing that you can use when you need it. Oh god, that's so rude. I don't know. I would keep Giordano around for a rainy day.
Yeah, I'd put him in my nightstand.
I would keep him in my nightstand for a rainy day. I was very upset when he got vaporized. I was like, no,
what the hell? They just like really just killed off all those people instantly. All those people that we came to love.
They kept around the evil empress who is really shitty and like the dumbass angel who's hot.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
She has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. She never did a single thing to redeem herself. And then the angel guy is just like
a vapid idiot. Yeah.
Nothing.
You're like, okay, he's also sort of unredeemable. Like he's just hot and like nice, but like he's not nice.
I guess the evil empress, she did destroy the entire world in order to save herself.
Just herself. She wasn't trying to save anybody else. She's like, we have to pull these levers and then we'll all be safe. Me, you, and the angel. Everyone else will get burned alive by the acid.
The madness.
Yeah. And like when I think about it even more, the angel guy, like imagine you got married to the angel guy and you went to work and then you came home and you like came in and you're like, and he doesn't work because he's like, I can't hold down a job because I can't remember how to do it when I go to work. So you go home and then you're like, did you defrost the chicken like I asked you to? And he's like, what's a chicken? And you're like, what the fuck, man? That's all I asked you to do is take the chicken out. And he's like, I don't even understand what you're saying. I'm going to go stretch my wings on the balcony. And he just like goes out there like stretching his wings. You're like, his ass is so nice though.
So the Mathmos is kind of like the Force with like powers.
I thought of it more like the Nothing from Neverending Story.
Okay.
Well, but it's a lake. It's like a lake that is underneath this city that powers it.
And it feeds on evil thoughts?
Yeah, Duran Durant describes it as a life force that's living like you or I, but it's liquid, like a liquid life force that can
and it
absorb
eats
you.
evil.
Do you know what that's like?
What?
The live stream in Final Fantasy.
Oh
7.
my god.
He plays things sometimes. That's the Green Ranger's flute song that I thought was the Back to the Future theme, but Back to the Future is not that. Back to the Future is
Wow, I can't believe you thought
I'll
that.
just sing. Da, 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 da. Right. The Secret Chamber of Dreams, where the Black Queen is vulnerable. They talk about how to defeat the Black Queen as well. Around this time in the movie.
Yeah, so he gives her the key, and then
yeah.
she goes to the man bong, which we've talked about a million times, but if we didn't really get into great detail,
Long live the revolution.
it's basically a giant hookah that has a man in the water part of the hookah, and he's like, he almost looks like he's drowning, where he's like, let me out of here. And there's like a bunch of women who are smoking hookah pipes, and they're like, this is sick. And she's trying to figure out where to go. And one of them is like, I can help you. And she sits down and is like, what are you smoking? And she's like, essence of man. And I think Barbarella goes, man? She's like, what the fuck?
And then cut to her in the sex organ. That's what I like. That's another one of those weird.
That it doesn't cut. She sits down because she's trying to blend in. Yeah, she's trying to blend in with the people smoking the man essence. And then Duran Durant shows up with his guards.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to be like she disguises herself and he walks by, but he immediately just sees her and is like, all right, come with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puts her in the orgasmatron.
Yeah, the sex organ.
That's uncomfortable, but weird and, horny.
Well, I mean, we've established that it is 100% an allegory for rape. Like it.
Yeah.
She starts off and she's like, oh, it's quite pleasant. And he's like, it is at first, but wait till the tune changes. And then it's like,
oh my God. Yeah. That whole thing was uncomfortable for me as well. But then they try to like play it off like it was just like, it's just a silly, funny moment afterwards, when she's like getting dressed and he, like it's all kind of loose and light, and it's just kind of like, this man just tried to like rape you to death.
She probably should have like beat him up or something. Yeah, it does feel like it's an allegory for something that's like overwhelmingly serious and dark and gross and scary. And like you're saying, it's just played for
she's
yucks.
Like very chill.
Yeah.
About it.
Well, she has multiple orgasms and then breaks it with her resolve and then gets out, and then he just does the James Bond explain his fucking evil plan to her.
Yeah.
Well, she just put her clothes back on.
I will say that like
some
the
clothes
joke
he gives her.
The joke there is funny, like where he's explaining his plot like a James Bond villain, all the while she's listening intently, but being like, can you pass me that blouse? Can you pass me those boots? Like, and like while he's explaining, all flustered, that he's like, I'm going to take over the city and become the king. He's like giving her an entire outfit, like one piece at a time, and she fully comes out. But then she also,
the tune changes, it'll change your tune as well.
Yeah. And then she decides she tricks him, right? Like, so she's kind of got him on his side by saying like, I've got the key to get into the dream chamber. No one can get into the dream chamber. Like, well, I have the key. Like, well, what does it look like? She's like, it's invisible. And he's like, oh, so you do know what it looks like. You're like, okay, yeah, this is good. This is good. But then he immediately betrays her, and like this whole thing is a little bit confusing. Like you smash the key into the ground, I guess, to open the door.
Yeah. What? Hold on. That part, I was like, did I miss something? Because they're like, okay, I'm gonna use the key, and then you just see like a bloop, in the.
She's like, I'm looking for the keyhole, and then he grabs it from her and slams it into the ground, which opens the door. He shoves her in. He runs in after her, grabs the second key that's on the inside, runs out, slams the key down again, and it closes the door.
That's how you open the doors. You just drop it in the water.
Yeah, I guess it's like a sound reverberation or something. It's not a literal key that you put in turn. It's like the sound of it hitting the ground is what opens the door, like a musical key. There's a lot of weird like musical stuff in this movie that
music in this movie is outrageous. Like some scenes, the music for some scenes the music doesn't go at all. There's some scenes where it's supposed to be. I can't remember exactly what was happening, but Barbarella was like, I don't know, running around scared, I think in the dream chamber or something. And the music felt to me like it's supposed to be like a scary moment where she's like, oh my God, where am I? Where do I go? But the music was just kind of like jaunty, like
too upbeat. Yeah, like, oh, isn't she stupid? She doesn't know where to go. And it's like, no, she's supposed to be scared right now.
Yeah,
I completely agree. There are some moments in this movie where the music worked really well, and there's some points where I'm like, bad choice. You should have gone back to the drawing board here. Like maybe they had another version that was like, this is too scary. We need to make it a little bit more upbeat. But like those moments where she's kind of like moving around the city and it's like, and it's like a solo guitar with that very like stringy, mysterious sound to it. I'm like, this is working for me.
I thought it was fun when she gets on the skis and they literally play like a jingle bell.
Yeah.
along with the music. I thought that was fun because she's on the ice planet, you know.
Yeah.
I personally liked a lot of the musical choices, even the weird like ones that don't make sense, because it just makes it feel like a weird 60s thing. That's sort of what I was viewing.
Like kind of cartoonish.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire movie is cartoonish, but like, you know, just the scene before, like it's dealing with something that's like super dark and gross. But like, I mean, I guess the idea of dealing with that kind of concept back then is probably not as serious as it is now, unfortunately enough to say. Like the idea of like sexual assault is like, it's not assault if both parties are having a good time, where it's like,
if they're all laughing it off after.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess it was fun.
Because it was written into the script that way.
It's also somehow not assault if she enjoyed some of it.
That's that's the most vile part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no redeeming it. Like it's not really funny either. Like you're kind of like, okay, this is more so uncomfortable than anything else.
There's actually nothing funny to me about the sex piano.
Yeah, it's a torture device designed to kill you. Yeah, it's a form of execution in his world, and she's too, I don't know, like promiscuous, I guess, to be able to die from it, or she's enjoying it too much that it overloads the machine. I don't know, which is like even more fucked up. Yeah,
the morals of this, like the general sort of moral perspective of this movie, is so not straightforward to me. Like it's not clear. And I don't really understand I don't get what this movie thinks about sex, if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Like, or about women. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Even like about men, like it doesn't really, none of it really makes sense. And like a scene like that, you're left wondering like, what was the goal there? I think the goal was just to make a joke that there's a sex organ. I think that's literally the joke, and they filmed
literally
it around
the words combined sex organ.
And the funniest part about that scene is him explaining his plan and handing over clothes as she asks for it, but also revealing his plan. Like that's a funny bit of writing that's following something that's like kind of visually disturbing and gross and like makes you uncomfortable. And again, I watched this with like a bunch of friends in a Zoom chat, and I remember like looking at all my friends and all of them being like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And me feeling the same thing and being like, thank God I'm not the only one who's not like sitting here like, this is hilarious. I'm like, this is fucking weird. I don't know what to feel.
Yeah. And I will say the funny thing about this movie is I Googled it because I didn't think about it myself, but it passes the Bechdel test. which is so funny for this movie. I mean, the Bechdel test obviously doesn't work. It's
It's a very flawed system, but
it's a very stupid, like, it doesn't.
Does it pass the Bechdel test because she talks to the queen about the world?
Because there are two women, and they speak to each other for I guess, I don't know if there's a time limit on it, but they speak to each other.
That's always been my question with the Bechdel test, because
I didn't hear
this movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test if it has to be some sort of time limit, or like they never talk about a man, but they definitely have a conversation about like lore about Sogos. So if that's the case,
it technically passes. I think that was the starting statement, is that it technically passes. But also, like we've said before in the past, the Bechdel test is not a perfect test. And I think even the person who invented it is like, it's a flawed test. Like, never.
Yeah, it's a concept. It's not like don't base all of your theories on, if a movie's a feminist masterpiece or not.
It must feature at least two women, and they must talk to each other, and their conversation must concern something other than a man. It doesn't say anything about timing. So, yeah.
Well, there we go. Chalk it up on the board, the Bechdel board.
Our new podcast.
You don't have a sting for that?
Yeah.
I wish. That's not a bad idea.
Here we go.
Bechdel test.
Yeah.
So during sort of the dreamscape period,
hold on.
Barbarella attempts to escape Pygar, but is betrayed by Duran Duran, who reveals his identity and his plan to seize control of Sogo and Earth. Duran Duran captures Barbarella and the Great Tyrant, locking them in a chamber to be killed by Mathmos. Barbarella's purity and lack of evil cause the Mathmos to overload. It destroys Sogo, but Barbarella and the Great Tyrant are miraculously saved by an energy bubble.
That's a
pretty large swath of the film.
They're saved by Angel Man.
No, but before that, when they're descending in that thing, and then
I think that the evil is like realizing that, like, oh, gross, goodness.
Yes, they said that the evil Empress lady said that you're so good. You made the Mathmos vomit.
Yeah, it doesn't want to eat you. It would rather shit you out. Yeah, like
it doesn't want to eat you, so it vomited because you're so good. And then she's like, "Oh my God, it's the angel guy!" And she's like, "Yeah, I threw him to the Mathmos too, but I guess he was too good too."
This is an example of a movie that it happens pretty often on this show, but a sprint to the end where you think there's going to be so much more, and then it just is a guy sitting in a hairdryer. He puts on the hairdryer that you were talking about at the beginning, and he's like, fire, and he just dies horribly in a fire while he kills all the other secondary, tertiary characters. Yeah. And then we end with Angel, Barbarella, and Evil Emperor, and they're on the top of a mountain, I guess, and then it's like Barbarella.
I was shocked when the movie ended. I was like, what? No, that can't be the ending.
Yeah, there needs to be more of this. Yeah, I mean, like, it's well suited to have like a sequel where it starts like a John Wick 2, if you will, where it starts right at the end of the last movie. I'd watch it. I'd watch Barbarella getting rescued by the French president or whatever, being like, "Bonjour, Barbarella, I came to rescue you." Yeah.
Oh my God, Barbarella comes back to Earth and brings back old-fashioned sex
to everybody. Yeah, and the emperor of the other planet is there, and the angel, and like, they have to work together. But then maybe the evil empress like gets so into like the nitty-gritty of the poor people of Earth that like she starts to form her own revolution there and be like a weird sort of dictator on that level, and starts a revolution, and then it's she's back, baby, and Barbarella has to fight her.
I found a rare picture of Duran Duran. Hope you guys agree with me, but this is a rare photo of Duran Duran.
Oh boy.
This is what he looked like to me in that final segment. That's Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie. I thought that his costuming looked like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers.
I would agree. I liked it though. I thought it was a very good purple costume.
It was very Final Boss. He looked like a dick.
Yeah.
because he was being a dick.
I mean, even the actor kind of looks like he could, if he got transformed into ooze, he would look like that.
Yeah.
I'm Ivan Ooze over here.
I'm Ivan Ooze over here. Best villain of my childhood.
I honestly don't remember what Ivan Ooze sounds like, but I remember that he would spit and like crows would come out of his spit. That was like the one thing that I remember him be like,
his
like
putty.
He
had like his own version of putties that were his ooze from his body.
But they were like crow
So
people,
funny.
weren't they?
Yeah. Yes, actually, yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Marianne, did you watch the Power Rangers movie from 1996?
No, I haven't seen any movies.
I've only seen Barbarella.
I tried to tell you that.
Spoilers, I'm going to invite you back on this show. So through this show, you will watch many movies.
Wait, I did good enough. I did well enough on the show that I'm allowed back.
I don't normally give you're welcome to come back anytime until the end. So spoilers.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that this was kind of an audition for the next time.
Jason treats every interaction he has with any human being like an audition for something.
It's true. You got the gift of the gab. I just like that term. So I guess that's pretty much it. I thought it was hilarious that he's just firing off lasers. He vaporizes the other two man heroes, which I think might just be like a metaphor for like, I don't need no man. But we lose.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't see it as that. I thought it was just they're like, we need to wrap up some fucking loose ends here.
Yeah.
Get rid of Ping. Get rid of Dildo.
That is how I saw it too. It was just like, how can we just end everything at once?
Yeah. Vaporize everybody.
Laser. Yeah.
It's funny though, because it's like, for how it has a happy ending, not having those two characters who were pretty pivotal to the plot. I mean,
in a good movie, the fur man, the child catcher, all the kids, Professor Ping, Dildano, all of those people would have been leading a revolution through the city while Barbarella was having a final standoff with the Empress on her side. They would have like girl powered together to fight Duran, and it would have been like a crazy fight in his chamber while he's like activating levers and being like, I'm going to destroy everything. And then like they would have, been fighting him while there was a war happening in the streets. I'm sure that there was a version of it and they're like, we can't do it. Just vaporize everybody, and then the angel saves them. That's what happens.
That is what happens. And the woman tyrant, who I guess helps at the end, is saved along. They fly off into the credits.
Well, yeah, in the ideal version of the end, she's been helping Barbarella slightly throughout the movie, right? Being like, I like going down and murdering people just like the people that live in my city. But like, you would have had a moment where there was a reconciliation between the two of them, or an empowerment between the two of them, and they would have been working together, and the audience would have then been fully on the side of the bad guy. When like a villain becomes a good guy in a movie and you're like so fucking excited because you're like, dang, that's a bad guy working with the good guys. I love this shit.
It's called a face turn in professional wrestling.
Isn't it called a heel turn? I thought it was called a heel.
No, heel turns when you like turn your heel to the good guy. You turn your back on somebody.
Oh, so it's the opposite. So you're a good guy.
Baby, when you become a baby face, you turn your face to the audience and say, I like you.
Oh. So
it's a pretty good concept.
Goes.
Oh. Is that real?
Wait, is that real? Did you just make that
up? Reading that like, oh, she's going to Australia, Michael? No, what I believe.
No, I took that as that she becomes evil. Like she becomes the bad guy, but going underwater, it would be like in the ooze of the whole planet. That'd be cool.
I have a fun fact about so Marceau was referenced earlier in the chat, and I didn't realize that Ping is played by Marceau, who's a famous French mime, and the reason why he's so talky in this was sort of an in-joke.
In his mime world.
He's a famous mime.
Wait, what?
Dr. Ping is played by a famous French mime / actor named Marceau. And the reason why he plays sort of a soothsayer, like wisecracky, like loud kind of guy, it was an in-joke because he's always
a mime.
A mime traditionally.
Wow. Milo O'Shea.
From
Oh, that's
90
cute.
Duran
They put
Duran
in the
music video. That's cool.
That's cute. Apparently, Barbarella Goes Down is real.
Yeah, according to Michael here. If Wikipedia is to be believed.
No, it's real according to the internet.
The whole internet?
The entire internet is talking about it. They can't stop.
They can't stop. Everybody's talking. Speaking of we're being preempted right now by the presidential debate. That's the only reason we don't have more viewers right now. Okay. Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. They're talking it out
right now.
Or we'd have hundreds of millions of viewers.
Damn.
Well, Steve's away for a sec. Do you have any fun facts from this list? I think we're looking at the same list that you'd like to let us in on.
Oh no, because I closed it. Fuck.
Okay.
Sorry, I cut my finger open by accident there. I had to put a band-aid.
What are you doing over there?
I was making a stencil today for I'm painting some miniatures like a fucking nerd. And I was playing around with the knife while we were talking. I accidentally cut my finger open and realized I was bleeding everywhere.
Barbarella goes through 7 different costume changers throughout the film. That's a fun.
I'm upset.
It feels like more, but yeah. I mean, I guess it doesn't break the record of Clueless, which was I think 17 or something crazy like that, and Barbie I think was less than Clueless, but like still higher than this. It does feel like it, but like it also feels like in this movie they use it as like a device to move from plot point to plot point. Like every time something major is happening, she has to have a different costume on, which I like, and I kind of wish they would do that more in like not just movies that are about like beautiful women, but like superheroes and shit, like Iron Man. Like make him have a bunch of different Iron Man like he's Tony Stark, he's got a bunch of Iron Man suits. Let him wear 7 different Iron Man suits throughout the movie. Like I like that kind of shit. There's an equivalency to like 12-year-old boy me that would love this kind of shit. Like I remember being so excited watching Batman and seeing Batman have a new type of Batman vehicle. Like he's in his car and then he's in his plane and then he's got a bike and he's got like I would just get so jazzed up for it. And like even the bat suits, like it's the same thing, man. It's the same shit. Do it more often. Why don't you? And
I agree.
Yeah,
I love it.
For a long time, they would like the studios would be on directors and writers of movies like this for like the little boys of the late 80s and early 90s of the Batman movies to be like, Batman's got to have 4 different suits because we've got 4 different toys made. We need to make it toy.
I wish so many of the action figures that were created, especially to those first 4, the 2 Tim Burton, the 2 Schumachers, he pretty much keeps the standard suit for most of the movie, but the action figures depict all kinds of different variations, which we never got the camouflage or the white suit or the fucking,
I mean, like if there was like a Barbarella doll,
Batman Returns looks like the animated series version, which I thought was weird as well.
If there was a Barbarella doll and you had to buy all the different Barbarella costumes like separately, like people would probably buy it, man. Even if they made it now, there would be people in their like late 40s, late 30s who are like doll collectors that would be like, they're making a Barbarella official doll and it's got all of the original Barbarella costumes. Like I will buy that shit.
Yeah. Oh my god, I googled is there a Barbarella Barbie and I ended up on the Mattel community forums.
Where and somebody popped up immediately like, what's your question? Like there's someone waiting for you there.
No, but there is a
Mattel has a special.
Someone wrote like, how about Jane Fonda as Barbarella Barbie? And like, there's a whole discussion on a Mattel like official forum about it. So maybe they'll make one.
I hope so.
Mattel has like its own special creations wing now too, which would be cool if they just released a.
I think that's what this is. That's what it's on. Yeah.
Because I don't buy a lot of wrestling figures, but Mattel has the WWE license and they make literally figures of every. Because wrestlers will change their costume every few months, and Mattel goes out of their way to make every single iteration of every single costume. So you see these wrestling figure collectors with walls of Mattel figures. I think they should throw some love to Barbarella.
Hell yeah.
But
there is a fun fact that I can't remember if we mentioned this before we went live, but the Dildano's password, can you say it? Do you know how to say it?
I can't, but it's been referenced in other things, but it's like
it's a real place.
Go or something like that, right? Like it's something weird.
It's a real place in Wales.
Oh,
it's a name of a real place.
That's probably where I've heard it, is like somebody on the news or something like saying it flawlessly and me being like, wow, crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Here, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to very quickly see if I can have this man.
A village in Wales, United Kingdom. It's also United Kingdom's longest. That's the longest name in all of Wales and the United Kingdom.
Here, check this out.
But somehow not the world? Yeah. There's a longer name in the world?
Here we go. Whoa. It's this guy. This is where I've heard it. Yeah.
Across the UK, just 12 degrees over coastal parts of eastern England with cloudy skies, but in the sunshine in northwest Wales at RAF Mona, just up the road from Llanfair Pwllgwyn, Gellgogera Quindrobol, Llantysilio Gogogoch, the temperature got to 21 Celsius at 70 in Fahrenheit.
What the hell?
Yeah. That guy has a brain bigger than all of us put together.
That's all I heard.
Oh
you didn't hear go, go, go at the end?
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
Should we talk about the Home Alone of it all?
I don't know what that means. Michael tried to explain this to me earlier and I didn't understand.
If you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home Alone of it all?
The Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
What a thing to put up as we decide to do the Home Alone of it all, Jason.
My Home Alone of it all is the fact that Jane Fonda was deeply involved with the civil rights movement and other progressive movements in the 1960s.
No, Jane Fonda is awesome. She's like really awesome and like very progressive, very cool lady.
The only bad thing that I ever heard about Jane Fonda is that they wanted her to be in the first Exorcist movie, but she demanded that it be shot in Rome because it was I don't know why. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But the story that I heard is like, I'll be in it if we shoot it in Rome and it's close to the Vatican. I think because it was about the devil or something, maybe she thought we'd be safer filming it. But I also truly believe that she's probably one of like the only good and like purely good people in Hollywood that ever existed. Like she didn't really have any kind of bad blood with anyone.
No, she worked for a long time, well into the 90s, right?
I mean, she did like workout.
She's working now.
Forever, right? Like, didn't
she's in Grace and Frankie on Netflix.
Yeah, with Miss Frizzle.
She's in Grace and Frankie, right? Yeah.
My other favorite old lady, the voice of Miss Frizzle.
Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That show's fun. I haven't watched it directly, but my wife watched it.
I've never seen it, but it's fun.
No, I've seen bits.
I watch by the screen when my wife is watching it, and I hear the voice of Miss Frizzle arguing with Barbarella, and I go, "What a fun show!" And then I leave the room.
June Diane Raphael, however you say her name.
June Diane Raphael.
Yeah, whatever her name is in it, and I've never seen Grace and Frankie, but I love June.
Yeah,
she's very funny. First season of it, and you know what? I like it because I just like the energy of like two old women who are just kind of like in your face and being like fuck everything. Like, yeah.
Well, the conceit of the show is that their husbands become open gay lovers.
Right? Yeah, like, love each other. Yeah,
and that's two like famous actors as well.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
What a funny concept. Also love the Magic School Bus. So Lily Tomlin's voice is just like one of those things that anytime I hear it, I'm like immediately calmed. Like I'm like, yes. My childhood. Remember when I was happy? Remember when everything was scary, but in just like I was scared of the wind and lightning and not just like walking down the street.
Martin Sheen and Sam Waterston are the two men.
Martin Sheen, yeah.
So the Home Alone of it all is sort of a concept that I coined where when I was a kid, I really loved the movie Home Alone. But what I really wanted to see, I didn't want all that first part where, you know, the family goes on their trip and he's home alone. I wanted the part where he slaps down the blueprint and you see his like horrible nightmares that he's going to unleash on these robbers who are trying to rob his house. And then the what happens after that where they go through all the traps. Now, a lot of movies have that for me where the first part of the movie I'm like, whatever, get to the working overtime part. But Homer, we played that song already. But this
Jason's rewatching The Simpsons right now.
I'm rewatching The Simpsons and I rewatched that episode literally yesterday. But it could also sort of be like your favorite part of the movie is what I sort of tell people that don't really understand the concept.
Why are you taking so long to explain this? This is crazy.
I don't know because people that don't get it, like,
you know, have you seen Home Alone? Have you seen the movie Home Alone?
I have, yes, yeah.
You know when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint?
No, I know,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna set up traps in this house.
Yeah.
That's the part of the movie that people went to go see because they're like, we want to see this movie for when he fucks the burglars up. We're asking you if there's an equivalency in Barbarella to that sequence.
I think I explained it pretty well. Marianna, the guest always goes first around here to see this one. What's your Home Alone of it all?
Oh my God, it's really hard to say because, like,
if it makes you feel any better, I feel the same way about this movie in particular.
Yeah, like there isn't really that turning moment for me in this movie because actually some of my favorite parts of the movie are at the beginning. I really like the opening sequence, like of her floating. I really like her in her spaceship. Like just like that whole vibe is awesome. And it's not really like, okay, let's get to the good part. For me, I actually really enjoyed that, or the early moments more than some of the later movie. So like I'm trying to think of a moment where I was like, okay, now the action's really going to ramp up. And I guess it's like the kids with the dolls. The dolls, right. Once she's getting captured by the kids and the doll, like you're looking at the dolls with the weird fangs and you're like, that was a moment for me where I was like, what the fuck is going to happen in this movie? Like
you're
this
not
has
sure,
gone
like,
off the rails already. Yeah.
I mean, that's a absolutely acceptable answer because I also have had a hard time pegging down like when this is going to be the Home Alone, because I think that there isn't one. The poster could be the Home Alone of it all because you just know you're going into a weirdo space movie.
Yeah.
And you get weirdo space movie from the second the movie starts.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll go with mine now, which is I'm thinking along the same moment that you are. I almost want to say as soon as she says, but I've not skied in so long. Like that's where I'm like, oh, okay. I understand exactly what I'm going to be watching now for the rest of the journey. But I think it's got to be the second tail pull of the the tail of the skunk costume. When she gets it caught in there the first time, I'm like, that's funny and goofy. But when the second time she knows it's about to get pulled and she's kind of like still kind of like leaning on the wall from her like ecstasy that she's just having made love for the first time, and then like the door like makes the noise like it's about to go and she like snaps out of it and pulls it out. I'm like, okay, now I really know where we are here in Barbarella. So I think I'm gonna go with the second tail pull of the skunk costume.
Perfect. I wrote there's not really one. I kind of agree with you guys on that. And I said maybe when she burrows into the planet and starts going after Durand, but it's all pretty equal in its insanity. So
yeah,
things just keep happening. You know, I guess after the first time she has sex, the movie kind of gets like going.
Yeah, I mean that's where she's unlocked her sexual prowess and now utilizes it as a tool throughout the rest of the movie, but it's kind of weird.
That's good. And now it's time to play the hit game show.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
What?
My name is Thomas Barbarella Godhand, and I'm here to tell you guys about the hit game that everybody's playing and everybody's loving across the 15 galaxies, and especially on Planet 16. My name is whatever I just said, and I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Dildano, my co-host, to tell you the rules of the game.
Stephen Dildano here. I have to tell you the rules of the game again, as I do every week. So, what we need to do is find a number, a 3-digit number between 000 and 999. These 3 numbers, of course, represent the last 3 digits of an MPAA rating code that they get every time they rate a movie. Meaning, we just need to worry about 999, 000, and everything in between. Guess 3 numbers, we get 3 guesses, starting whenever Jason Ella Arv for the Philadelphia tells us when to go.
I think I said like Thomas Barbarella and Godhand. So yeah.
What?
Basic.
What?
We just have to guess a number between 000 and 999, and we get 3 guesses.
Yeah. I am going to give you the first 2 numbers to make it extra confusing. The first 2 numbers of the 5-digit number this week are 21. So I just need the next 3 numbers after that. Marianna, go first with your guess.
This is the rating of this movie?
Nope. That has nothing to do with it. I'll explain after why.
Okay. So I'm just guessing any 3 numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were the first 2? For no reason whatsoever?
2-1.
Okay. And they have no bearing on what?
Nothing to do with it.
Okay, good. So yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with 731.
Steve, lower.
606.
Marianna, higher.
Okay. 692.
Steve, lower.
686.
Marianna, lower.
644.
Steve, your final guess, higher.
657. Dang.
You both guessed. No, that's the. Where's the fucking? No, the MPAA rating number this week is 21677. You guys are very, very close. Congratulations.
For us not getting it. The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA.
Okay.
Wow.
So just for a little context, that's meant to be a hilarious disaster like that. We included it because we used to just say what it was, and I wanted to keep that, but it just caused this panic, and I think it's funny.
You used to say what is the MPAA?
So the MPAA, every number that's been rated by the MPAA, like the rating, like rated R, rated PG,
okay,
has been officially given a number by the MPAA. So by the 60s, they're in the 21,000s because movies have been around so long. Right now, we're up in like the 80s, the 80,000s.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just the number in which it was rated.
Yeah.
So it's like you were the 90,000th movie to get an R rating out of all the movies that have ever been rated between G and M or whatever, or not M, X, I guess.
What is the rating of this movie?
I mean, it's probably R, I would assume, because it's got
R?
Well, I mean, for the 60s, yeah, because like there weren't a bunch of letters. There was like GR. It was like either it's safe for kids or it's not.
Maybe we should have people guess also the rating of the movie.
Yeah, it'd be an easier game. Yeah.
It'd be an easier game. But thank you for playing. We're just about already here. We have one more thing we like to do, and it's called Hey.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Jason, you
IMDb
always make me
says
feel like
PG.
sometimes you'll just pause for a long time. I'm like, am I supposed to press it now? And other times you'll be like, hey. And then you're like, did you see that? And I'm like, I don't know when to press buttons. You're very unpredictable. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That can't be right. It's a PG. Well, you're getting better. I used to do the sound effects, but Steve was like, I'll do them. And I was like,
That's
okay.
not how it went down. Not how it went down at all. Anyway, now we give our final thoughts. Barbarella, how about you go first?
Yeah, the guest always goes
Me?
first. Katie says,
Yeah.
and also I'll also say that, like, give your final thought on the movie, but also if you want to give it some sort of rating, whether it be a number rating, I do out of 5. Some people do out of 10. Some people do stars. Some people do completely nonsense ratings, which is also acceptable. But the floor is yours.
Okay. I loved this movie, and not because it was a good movie necessarily. I think it's just one of those movies, like, and it's also like not one of those movies that is like so bad. It's not like The Room level, like so bad it's fun. Like it's not that for me. It's just like fun. It's just fun. It's just like aesthetically so fun. I didn't expect to enjoy it that much or be that confused by it. I thought it was going to be a much more straightforward movie, and I was taken on a ride. So, like, and the ride made absolutely no sense, but I was totally on board. I don't know. I love Jane Fonda. She's a terrible actress in this movie, but just so cute. And I honestly have nothing else to say other than just it was lovable. And a rating, I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it 2 Jane Fonda tits out of 2.
Whoa. That's the maximum amount of Jane Fonda tits you can
That's
give
as
a
many
movie.
as you're gonna get,
Really perky rating you gave it there. Steve, what are your final thoughts on Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy, starring Jane Fonda from the year 1968, starring Jane Fonda?
I think that if you are interested to watch movies of this sort of caliber, of this era, of this genre, then this is a really great spot to start. If you like things like Rocky Horror Picture Show or Flash Gordon, or even like a little bit Star Wars, even things that are like campy, like the old Batman, like the Adam West Batman, even the Tim Burton Batman sort of weirdly has a similar vibe to this in certain ways. I'd say that this is like a movie that is worth watching. Are you going to love it? Probably not. But are you going to love your time while watching it? Yeah, it's not something that you're going to want to watch over and over and over again, but it's something that while you're watching it, you're going to have a lot of fun. I think it's stupid, it's weird, it's goofy, it's sexy, it's horny, it's kind of god awful at times, but it's fun. It's a fun movie, man. I've only seen it 3 times, but I've seen it 3 times in a short period of time, and I've liked it each time I've watched it. And it is something that is more fun to watch with people. But it's possible to have fun watching this movie by yourself. Not as much fun, but it's good. And I think if I had to give this movie a rating, which I do, because at the end of every episode, I have to give it a rating, I'm going to give it the essence of man, but not like a gross man that you don't want to be around, like a fun, maybe slightly effeminate, hairless man who will forget everything about the conversation slightly after you talk about it with him. You know, you'll be like, how'd you like that? And he'll be like, I have no memory. That's my rating.
Dong. I liked the concept, and the special effects were really fun, but this is pretty incoherent at best. I understand movies like this didn't really exist at this time, but there were some connective tissue problems that could have been put in instead of weird sexual overtones. And the weird sexual overtones are fine. I just mean like there were some parts involving sex that were a little bit just too overt. Maybe just tone it down, make it a little bit more subversive, and also just connect these scenes together in a more coherent way. I give it a 2.8 out of 5. I also give this an angel who has no memory, which is what I want to have of this movie.
Whoa, that's like the same rating I gave it almost.
Yeah, I know. I when you were saying that, I was like, oh man.
Mine was maybe a little bit more poetic, but yeah.
Yeah, yours was way better. But yeah, I'm glad that we all kind of came to the same conclusion about this film.
Man, the people love you, Jason. They love you.
They love me.
I think, like, yeah, I definitely the movie like needs work, and I agree. There's some overtly sexual things that like, and like rapey things that are like too much for me. But you know, putting that aside, for what it is, like just a campy, freaking weird ass spacey space comedy thing, I think they accomplished a lot. I think they kind of did kind of hit it.
I almost wanted to ask you guys, like, what would be your like perfect ending to that horrible sex organ scene? And like I had like an idea of like how I think it would be better to end it, other than her just being like, I'm satisfied that I fucked your machine to death or whatever, which I think is what they were going for. Like she fucked the machine so hard that the machine
it was a little satisfying that the machine kind of like exploded.
Yeah.
Because I did want that to just end horrifically. I think probably I would have loved for him to accidentally fall into it or something
and get killed by it. Yeah.
Yeah, and get killed or just severely injured by it or something.
I think for me, it would have been good if like she blasted through it. Like she broke it so hard that it like fell up down around her, and then she just like immediately like smoked him in the nuts with like a huge kick. You know, like, and he's like, oh, like his voice goes up 4 octaves or something. Like I could handle that.
I think it was a really weird, out of place, a salty kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
That
I mean, even just
really
the way they're filming him, and like his hair is all like it's like from a low angle. Like it really,
he looks disgusting.
Yeah,
I think that he should have got his comeuppance directly from Barbarella. If it wasn't in that sequence, like she should have like stabbed him with a sword or something.
Yeah.
Like instead of him just like getting blown up by the power of good or whatever.
Yeah, there just wasn't really enough of a vengeance there. It would have been nice for him to get some kind of comeuppance from that.
Yeah.
Because if this movie was made today, which apparently it's going to be,
I do wonder, like, what is Edgar Wright in the writer's room being like, how do we do the sex organ again, but have it be not as fucking.
But like they have to give Barbarella something, because in this movie, as fun as it is, like, and for me, like, it's fun just purely on a surface level, but like really Barbarella, they're calling her Queen of the Galaxy on the poster, and like in the movie she truly has nothing going on for her. Like there's not much going on there. She really is just a cutie pie, sort of wandering around the galaxy, having sex, and just like kind of being surprised mildly by things. And that's about it. She doesn't get any kind of justice. She doesn't really like, she's not a hero.
What if they make it like the sequel is like, it's a sequel and not a remake, and like she's been going around the galaxy, and like she's like dan, 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 and now she's like fucking people because she wants to, not because she got tricked into it.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would love for her to have some agency and not just like stumble onto some like alien man's penis.
Yeah, I mean, whoopsies, and like a narrating musical man being like, Barbarella fell on top of a hairy dick one day.
I'm concerned that this movie was like even worse on paper. Like I'm concerned that the perverts making this movie were like, how perverted can we make it? And they managed to make it a little bit more progressive than perverted. That's what I'm thinking while watching this whole movie. Like all these.
I mean, I couldn't find anything really truly like bad about the making of this movie in terms of like the work culture, but I mean, it was 1968, so I'm sure everybody was probably on lots of drugs, and you're like, let's just bone between takes. So like, who knows? Maybe it was a very sex positive set. I don't know, but
I mean, that it was.
I think a remake of this movie could be really good, but it could also be very dicey in terms of like where's the comedy going to come in? Is it going to be just that it's a 1960s influenced sci-fi romp, or is it going to be something different?
I don't know. I think they're probably going to go the Barbie route and try to make it like a feminist piece.
I think that's probably the wisest.
I feel like you have no choice but to do that with a movie like this. If you're going to remake it now in 2024 after Barbie, after that whole thing, it's like you kind of have to make it.
And if you think about like Edgar Wright's, even just like his visual style, like it could be absolutely wonderful, like visually. And I know that he loves sort of like the practicality of filmmaking, even the The World's End, like so many practical effects in that movie that work so well. I think he's a good choice, but he's also notorious for getting projects like this and then dropping them at the last second and being like, you don't want me to let me do what I want to do. So
I'm surprised we got Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Even that's such a hefty thing to undertake, and that turned into a great film. In retrospect, not so much, but this isn't a movie. This isn't a podcast about that film. This is a podcast about Barbarella, but we have basically talked about it. We could probably keep just talking about it, but the final thing that we like to do on this show is just sort of give our plugs or message to the world. We don't really have a sting for that, I don't think.
No.
Well, maybe one day.
Plug corner.
Hey, Barbarella, thank you for coming on our show. You've been a fantastic guest. This is the part of the show where I would say welcome to the pantheon of guests for Hey, Did You See This One? You're welcome to come back anytime and talk film with us. Do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah. Sure. You can catch me as Barbarella at the next Fan Expo Toronto next August. But yeah, I work for the Sonar Network, which is a podcast network, a comedy and arts podcast network. We're based out of Toronto, but we've got shows all over the place. We support a lot of really wonderful Canadian and American comedians, performers, artists, podcasters, and I love my job and I love them. And if you like podcasts, you should check them out. We're also producing shows, and we have a very, very exciting show coming up sometime in the next year that we're producing right now, which I can't even really, I guess I'll announce whatever. I guess everybody's watching the debate, so there's probably not that many people here anyway, because of the debate. But we are launching a new series, limited series, fiction audio series next year with by writer Mike Sachs, who is a great humorist and author who a lot of comedians know and love. And we've got some really awesome people attached, like Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul. She's Kim Wexler.
Wow.
Yeah, and like some other cool people, but we're still in casting. So I'm really excited to talk more about that when I'm allowed to say more about it. But for now, I guess just check out the Sonar Network, and yeah, follow us on Instagram, I guess, and you might see more news about that soon.
Fantastic.
Sweet.
Well, once again, thank you for coming on. Steve,
Thanks for having me.
what's coming down the pipe for you?
Well, I got a bunch of stuff, but I'm a voice actor. I do video games and a lot of YouTube narration. I'm doing a game called Dominica coming out in November. I'm going to be a character called General Hector, which I have been loving doing. But Darth Theorist, check that out. We're slowly climbing the ladder in terms of views. It's really exciting. Ready, Set, Disaster, Arcane Archives, Mr. O, a bunch of other ones. But yeah, just follow me wherever you can. It all helps because I love doing it, and I love hearing you guys tell me that I got a cool voice, even though it's mostly this. Hey, how's it going? It's me, Steve.
It's usually like, hey, welcome
Hey,
to
hello.
Darth Theorist. That's my
What if
impression of
Obi-Wan
you.
Kenobi was taller?
That's like are you announcing an actual episode that's coming out?
Yeah.
What if Obi-Wan Kenobi was taller than a Jar Jar Binks? For me, it's pretty simple. I want to promote this show. Hey, did you see this one? Each and every week on Thursday, typically on Twitch and YouTube. We put our video on demands up on YouTube the next day. So this will go up tomorrow, Wednesday, but typically it's a Friday release. Once again, 8 p.m. Thursdays. I'd also like to put out that I am an announcer, professional wrestling announcer for Super Kicked Pro Wrestling here in Toronto. We have a show next Friday. It's called Paradise, Super Kicked Paradise, which is a great name to close the summer out, where we have lots of great matches, and I'm really excited for it. And also, you can just find me on social media. I do a lot of bullshit on there. Important influencer on TikTok, where I mostly just post about this podcast. So you can also find us on most social media. We have an audio version of the show that goes up. That'll go up tomorrow as well, and usually goes up on Fridays, and that's on Spotify and Apple and all of those great places. And that is pretty much our show for tonight.
Can I just go back to something that I just saw that Mike said in the comments?
Yeah, of course.
He said the Mathmas was a spitter. And I wish that I had the presence of mind at the time to say that the Mathmas is like, did a hawk to a.
Oh God.
I just wanted to say that now, so that we don't end the whole thing, and I don't get to say that, and then I can't sleep at night.
Regret it. Like next week, you're like, I should have said Haktua. Why didn't I say Haktua over there?
Yeah, the math
I think that Barbarella should have said Haktua in this movie. And we find out that's where,
or at least the Empress should have said it. She'd be like,
Yeah.
Barbarella, my pretty, don't you know how to give a Haktua to your man? Yeah.
Get on that thing.
An angel cannot Haktua. An angel is Haktua.
Well, we brought the meme back. We brought the dead meme back from the grave, and I'd like to thank you all again for being here tonight while we sit around the internet radio and the internet fireplace. There is one question that needs to be asked, and the guest always has to ask this question. Marianna?
Hey, did you see this one? I'm exhausted.
Oh, what a good episode that was. We're still in the air. Oh, wait, it's a former guest. He's in the background and he's wearing pajama pants.
Oh, well, we have to show him. Oh, look at him. Look at him.
You have it playing in your pocket?
Oh, weird. It's like a weird echo effect.
Yeah. He has it playing in his pocket, and my cat is also screaming the whole time.
Let's beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mario Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.